Chapter 1064, Rush. Chapter 1064, Rush. Proofreader, Papatonks. Yin-Yang Ghost Claw. Yang Mo released his aura, fighting with a prince just off from the main fight. Yin and Yang flames formed into an eerie claw that raked the air. The prince gazed coldly, waving his finger and shooting a sword wave to crush the claw like it was nothing. The sword wave wasn't finished, slashing Yang Mo's chest and making him cough blood as he flew through the air. Yang Mo. Wu Qingqiu cried out in worry just as Bailey Jinggang arrived before him and smashed his punch into his clarity domain. You have the time to mind others when fighting me? Bam! Second only to Yi Lin, the strongest body in the Western lands was Wu Qingqiu. However, Bailey Jingtian's unstoppable punch connected to Wu Qingqiu's chest, snapping his ribs. Wu Qingqiu was flung through the air and landed hard, with blood splattering everywhere. They weren't the only ones, with everyone else suffering the same fate against the 9 princes. All these renowned disciples ended up crushed in less than a second. None could get up, too damaged and too paralyzed to move. The 10 princes of Bailey were unstoppable in power and potential. Plop. Murong Shui bled from the mouth with a frown, her knee hitting dirt. Looking around, she found that the 10 princes were dominating the fights, leaving their opponents on the ground. Even Yi Lin and Ouyang Changqing, the opposing land's strongest, were no different, looking on with despair and dismay. We're finish. Murong Shui's heart sank in defeat and she shook her head. She should have known that the 10 princes were beyond any of them could hope to match. Bailey Jingtian alone was like a second invincible sword, crushing them all the same even without the other 9 princes compared to them. Her side were Weevil's. First came defeat and then came robbing their future and their lives. Murong Shui sighed and closed her eyes. Regardless of that foul man's shrewd planning, it was Bailey Yutian who had taken initiative and now held the advantage. Now we have lost and the 4 lands lost as well. The people are going to suffer once more. Brother, these guys were nothing. How do we handle her though? Bailey Jinggang's cold eye surveyed the area, and as he brought a shivering Chu Qingcheng over to Bailey Jingtian gave her a long look. Miss, there's no need to fear us. We won't hurt you. We only want to find your husband. Where could Serge be at this moment? Chu Qingcheng shivered and lowered her head. Bailey Jingtian looked at his brothers with puzzlement. Don't tell me she's been scared out of her mind. He'd seen his fair share of cowards, but never one who turned like this and was a cultivator as well. They were only a bit rough on them, that was all, not yet having resorted to killing, so what's got her so terrified? Brother, this must be her nature. Bailey Jinggang said. When we struck, the girl had just stood there and shivered. She didn't even fight us when we brought her, like a cripple. Why would Zhuo Fan, a deceitful and arrogant bastard who even fooled the patriarch, marry a dull wife like her? Bailey Jingtian was stumped. She's dull? Cough tilde. Yi Lin spat blood and forced his weak body to sit. Don't touch my sister-in-law. She lost her mind and knows nothing. Just take me if you want. What good will that do? Who are you to Zhuo Fan anyway, that you could draw him out? Bailey Jingtian mocked and turned to the shivering Chu Qingcheng. She may be a dumb wife, but Zhuo Fan did have them escort her. That proves he'll come for her. She'll make a good bait. Brothers, take her back. Yes, sir. Bailey Jinggang bowed with the others and grabbed her hands to leave, but then paused. Brother, what about them? They may be insignificant bugs now, but who's to say what the future holds? Especially those 2, having the potential of a sword king. Get rid of them. Bailey Jingyu's face was cold as jumped in the air. He drew 2 fingers and unleashed booms as his power shot from them. The people on the ground closed their eyes. The pride of Western lands was going to fall here of all places, away from home. Ouyang Changqing gnashed his teeth, roaring, I can't accept it. I've yet to marry Sister Shui. I've yet to be the best in the lands. I can't die, I won't. You. Become the best. Humph. Bailey Jingtian scoffed. At best you're nothing but your old man's successor, the best in the northern lands. The best in the lands shall forever be with our clan, so just wake up already. Oh, sorry, it looks like you won't even be dreaming soon. Take this little pity you got from me and use what precious seconds you have left to dream then. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Changqing's lips shook. Changqing, I'm here to save you. I knew sensing the evoking heaven art here that it was you who did it. Ha ha ha, I'm so glad there's still time. A sudden voice shouted. Elder Lu. Ouyang Changqing looked at the old man leading 24 others and showing their mighty Genesis expert aura. Ouyang Changqing was overjoyed. We're safe. 20 elders are here and in Genesis stage. They. Boom tilde. Thunder rattled the air with every explosion of lighting, and the elders were broken apart under the thunder sword waves. They couldn't even scream as they turned to ashes. Bailey Jingtian put down his fingers and mocked. Young Master Ouyang, did you not hear me? I've trained against crowds from a young age, against 100. Aren't you a bit naive thinking 20 Genesis stage bags of bones could save you? Ouyang Changqing felt like crying, roaring, you freak, have you no respect for your elders? Killing kind old men without provocation, is this how you've been raised? What has the Bailey clan even taught you? The patriarch said to cut the tongues of the chatty ones. Bailey Jingtian darkened as he glared at him. Ouyang Changqing closed his mouth, shivering in silence. Murong Shui shook her head with a bitter smile. The pompous fool is wild even in death. Bailey Jingtian drew his fingers again and built power in them as he put on an evil smirk. There's no need to harbor false hope, as the Sea Bright sect has hardly any people left alive. No one will be coming to save you. So just accept my judgment and go to hell, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingtian flicked and the sword energy came crashing down. It held so much power the stones were eaten away, robbing the breaths of the wounded on the ground. They were all doomed, they knew it, but none could do anything to stop it. Elder brother, farewell. Forgive me for not protecting my sister-in-law. Yi Lin closed his eyes in remorse. Shui Fan, I am ashamed to be your brother. Wu Qingqiu and Yang Mo lowered their heads. There are too many monsters in the world. I am unable to be the best in the lands. Ouyang Changqing felt his heart twist in defiance. Central areas can't be repelled. The people are going to suffer. Murong Shui sighed. In the moment of their deaths, all that went through their minds were their regrets. But then, Divine Eye of the Void's 5th stage, Thunderflame Wall. Chapter 1065, Horyu. Chapter 1065, Horyu. Proofreader, Papatonks. Elder brother, Yi Lin cried out and opened his eyes. The others were also excited as they looked on with hope. Shui Fan, tilde. Power shot in front of the sword wave and black thunder flames sprung to life in the form of walls. Bailey Jingtian got startled by the sudden development, but the deadly sundering sword art attack smashed into the flaming walls. Next there was no sound. The sword energy was swallowed up as it made contact with the flaming wall, losing most of its power. Bailey Jingtian gasped in disbelief. What is going on? How did my sword energy suddenly get so much weaker? The first wall was soon exhausted and the sword energy now met with the second. This was where it got stalled for longer, not passing through as fast, getting its power cut off even more. Once the second wall was gone, the sword energy lost most of its power. As it arrived at the third and final wall, it faded away along with it in an explosion. Fierce winds blew around, showing a man with long black hair. The Bailey princes gasped, then grew excited. The patriarch wants his head. We just have to take it and make a name for ourselves. The princes were eager to get rewarded, including the crown prince. Elder brother, Yi Lin cried out, looking grave, forgive me, I failed you and didn't protect sister-in-law. Shui Fan's eyes shook and glanced at him before turning to Chu Qingcheng, who Bailey Jinggang was still holding. His eyes grew icy as he stepped forward, ignoring everyone else. Murong Shui shouted, Devil, what are you doing here? You're only dying with us. You can't fight them. Their leader is the best disciple in the lands, Bailey Jingtian. He's the next invincible sword. Shui Fan never paid her any mind, still walking forward. Fine, since you want to die, go ahead. The sooner a devil like you dies, the better off the world will be. Murong Shui huffed after being ignored. Ouyang Changqing said, Sister Shui, Bailey Jingtian is beyond strong like invincible sword, but Shui Fan did stop the berserk Yi Lin and he's the best disciple in Western lands. He should have a chance, right? None whatsoever. Murong Shui shook her head and huffed. Senior Ouyang explained clearly that he stopped it because his power clashed with the world's power. I had also once fought him and he isn't anything strong. He needs to restrain the sundering sword art or he's only going to die against an expert like Bailey Jingtian. Really? Ouyang Changqing's hope hit rock bottom, speaking with misery, and here I thought there's hope for us now that he showed up, but he's only showing off to die. What did I ever do to deserve this? Is there no real savior coming to rescue us? Ouyang Changqing sighed and lamented his untimely demise. But then a weak laugh came. Ha ha ha, young Master Ouyang, no need to fret. Our savior is right here. Who are you beseeching? Ouyang Changqing turned to Wu Qingqiu and Yang Mo, seeing their conviction and confidence. You guys believe he can save us? But Sister Shui, Miss Murong. Wu Qingqiu ignored him and said to the girl, you said you fought him once, but do you know his real strength? Acting sloppy and being serious are two things entirely. Serious? Murong Shui paused to think, it's I who was serious though. You believe all my strength wasn't enough for him to get serious? Wu Qingqiu shook his head. In the Double Dragon Manners gathering, demon scheming sect's disciples talked about how Brother Zhuo had always been laid back. He'll never lift a finger to do anything dull. Let me put it another way. Did Brother Zhuo use his eye when he fought you? His eye. Precisely. Yi Lin butted in with immense confidence in Zhuo Fan, elder brother's half. 70% of power is in his eyes. Since he hasn't used them on you, he was only playing. He's only serious when he uses them. When I fought with elder brother, his eyes never stopped flashing. In other words, he was only using a third against you and you still look down on him. Murong Shui gasped as she frowned at Zhuo Fan. Are his eyes that amazing? He's such a great genius, yet a third of his power is only in his body. Ouyang Changqing turned to Zhuo Fan in haste, wishing to see the battle for the best disciple in the lands about to unfold. Hovering above and gazing down on the approaching Zhuo Fan, Bailey Jingtian smirked. Qian Fan, Zhuo Fan, ha ha ha. How should I call you, I wonder? Whatever. Then, Sir Zhuo. Bailey Jingtian smirked. I remember the first time I saw Sir Zhuo and it left a deep impression. Even the Patriarch got fooled by you. Sir's skills are sublime, with none seeing through your bluff. Frigid Rain Sword King then came back and we knew the truth, that you're just at the soul harmony stage in strength yet you act like a Sword King. We truly admire your calm and level-headed attitude as you put on your act, sir, however, has conned the wrong people. Patriarch is outraged and wants your head, you see. That's why we're here. So, if it's not too much trouble, would you grace us with your head on a platter? Zhuo Fan shook and stopped, looking up at Bailey Jingtian. Who are you? Did we meet? I am Swordstar Empire's Crown Prince, Bailey Jingtian. I had a one-sided encounter with Sir along with Patriarch. Sir shouldn't be so quick to forget. Bailey Jingtian smirked with pride going down memory lane. Zhuo Fan closed his eyes. Sorry, I don't bother with bystanders. Sir, what's that supposed to mean? I even introduced myself. Bailey Jingtian's face fell. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Should I remember you just because you stated your name? Thinking back, I often met with outstanding men, leaders of the Five Lands. You just said you were with Bailey Yutian. Ha ha ha. Sorry, but the only one I recall is your Patriarch who was before me. I didn't even commit the 5 Sword Kings to memory, let alone a pipsqueak like you. What can I do? I have too much important stuff taking my time that all the useless junk gets filtered out. Useless junk. Bailey Jingtian's face twitched. Sir Zhuo, you're being too condescending. Zhuo Fan shook his hand, mocking. I have my standards in anything I do. There's 2 kinds of people, the way I see it, enemies and friends. Which, I wonder, are you? Enemy. Zhuo Fan shook his head. You can't mean friend, for Sir Zhuo will be most wrong. Oh no, you needn't worry about which. Zhuo Fan looked at him with a taunting smile. Since you never registered to me. I told you, I don't waste my time with bystanders. So, who are you? Wu Qingqiu's group stifled their laughter. Bailey Jingtian shook in rage and hatred, staring daggers at Zhuo Fan. This punk has to die. Chapter 1066, A Punch's Dominance. Chapter 1066, A Punch's Dominance. Proofreader, Papatonks. A pretentious fool who only knows how to act and deceive is now unmasked yet still insists on sticking to his role to the end. Haha, Sir Zhuo, this is utterly vapid. Bailey Jingtian's bloodthirst shone in his eyes, smirking and signaling Bailey Jinggang. I, however, am in no mood to indulge you. Your head is mine. Brother, the dumb wife has outlived her purpose, handle it. Bailey Jinggang gave a sharp nod and laughed. Lightning crackled all over him as he smashed a big fist at Chu Qingcheng with an evil grin. Bailey Jingtian's sword wave finally grew outrageously strong enough. Glancing back at Zhuo Fan, Weren't you so full of yourself in your acting? Your wife is about to have that punch splatter her all over, and what can you do? Nothing. What's there to still be smug, Just as he was about to release his sword wave, he froze, looking in disbelief at where Zhuofan was standing, to find it empty. Where'd he go? Whoosh tilde. Bailey Jingang's face twisted as his mighty fist reached Chu Qingcheng, the blowing wind fluttering the frail girl's white hair. Then something red flashed out of nowhere, standing before Chu Qingcheng and meeting Bailey Jingang's strike. What was that? Bailey Jingang's eyes shook from shock. The flash came all of a sudden and couldn't make it out, yet cared little about it. The dumb wife must have had some protective spiritual weapon. But he believed that there was nothing that his lightning-forged body couldn't overcome. After all, he was able to punch through even 7th-grade spiritual weapons. He shouted, ramping up the lightning on his fist as he pushed on. Bam! The punch slammed into the red glow, unleashing a mighty shockwave, only to realize this was anything but a defensive spiritual weapon. But a scarlet fist. Bailey Jingang was even more confident. No matter who was coming at him, the number of people able to take on his beyond tough body could be counted on one hand. Yi Lin was a freak enough, but he was now on the ground in wounds. He didn't believe that there could be another outrageous body cultivator here. It was only logical to think that monsters were a rarity, or how else would others get by with them being so common? Shaking his head and sporting a belligerent grin, Bailey Jingang grew excited as he got into smashing the ignorant interloper. Ha ha ha, fool, you're coming at me with your body? You've got a death wish. I will flatten you. I'm sorry to say, that's going to be you. And while monsters were indeed a rarity upon this God's green earth, he had hit quite the iron plate this time. Coming from the red glow was a cold reply to his infinite confidence. Bailey Jingang blinked as there was a sickening crunch echoing from before him. What followed was a blinding pain that overloaded his heart. He jerked, then sweated all over hard. How is this possible? Bailey Jingang was overwhelmed with a maelstrom of emotions. How? Who? How can a fist be that strong? Is it still made of flesh and blood? His eyes shook hard, Bailey Jingang looking dumbfounded as the scarlet fist's glow eased to reveal Zhuofan's deadly gaze. Get away from my wife, reject. The scarlet fist shook and unleashed a powerful ripple that exploded Bailey Jingang's lightning-covered arm, causing bone, blood, and flesh to fly all over. Bailey Jingang's gaze was empty, only now sensing there was nothing where his tough arm should be. Then the dread came, further amplified by Zhuofan's ruthless gaze. Never had he thought that there would be someone out there that could break his body forged through such hardships. Is he still human? Bailey Jingang's heart seized. Retreating now was impossible, not when he was supremely confident in his own body that he gave his all in that attack. As his eyes were taken in with fear and shock, inertia carried the now one-armed Bailey Jingang closer to the red glow and his doom, all by his own making. Boom! Bailey Jingang collided with the fist in a mighty bang and turned to mush. It made a nauseating splatter as his corpse hit the ground, before he could even let out his last cry of pain. As for the punch, its power shot ahead, ripping everything for 100 miles. A huge cloud of dust was kicked even as the ground never stopped shaking. Only now did the bystanders react, looking over at the sudden commotion to find a savage wind blowing where Chu Qingcheng and Zhuofan stood. As for Bailey Jingang, he was now blood on the ground, fertilizing the grass. The two had a mighty clash of the toughest bodies yet, and the result came faster than expected. With Bailey Jingang's body failing immediately, it happened so fast that none here could react nor see how the gruesome ending of the buffed Bailey Jingang came to be. Brother! The princes cried out in shock, giving Zhuofan looks of fear and bewilderment. How on earth did he just get to brother in an instant? And just what kind of power utterly destroyed brother, who is only second to the crown prince? But more importantly, how did he kill him without even giving us the time to witness it? That can only mean his power. All princes turned to the still stunned crown prince, who grew dark. He's not a pretender through and through after all. But how did he pass 8 princes? Is his speed that great, dwarfing even mine? Bailey Jingtian balled his fists, his heart tense with caution. Murong Shue's group on the ground were just as stunned. She could hardly believe what she saw. Is this what Yi Lin meant? Is this the devil's true power? It's unlike anything I fought against back then. Quick, sharp, ruthless, killing the second prince on the spot. She was brought back to when she faced Zhuofan in Galefrost Town, when Zhuofan took her hit on purpose to return the favor. Murong Shue gnashed her teeth in defiance, Since when do I need the devil to turn his cheek for me to purge evil from this world? This is utterly absurd. Hey, brother Yi Lin, is Western lands godlike? Ouyang Changqing was having a difficult time coming to terms with reality as well, slapping Yi Lin's shoulder as he demanded answers. How the hell did you even train the best disciple in Western lands? You clashed with Bailey Jinggang yourself and he hadn't budged at all. Why then is he now dead in a second? Hey, say something. Weren't you bragging? Did you really fought this freak for the Western lands best disciple title and barely lost? Yi Lin's eyes twitched hard, his ears ringing with the pompous fool's demands. But as he looked at Shuo Fan, he sighed hard, shaking his head. Qilin has the greatest strength among sacred beasts. Elder brother has now learned to use the Qilin arm as his own. Now even I won't be able to take that arm. Just how could I have fallen so far behind in just a few years? Yi Lin shook his head, ruefully. Ouyang Changqing felt the same, though his mind ran wild with swears. Brother Yi, you're as bright as the sun yet you could never match his splendor. Woe is you. There is no marring the shine of the moon. Thank God there's no monsters like that in northern lands or my heart would break from jealousy. Though with the danger we're in, the stronger this brother Zhuo is, the better. At least we'll get to survive this, hey. Ouyang Changqing's eyes flashed with hope, looking at Shuo Fan in expectation. Brother Zhuo, my poor humble life and future happiness rest in your hands. Save me and sister Shui and I shall never forget this boundless favor you have graced me with. Chapter 1067, Devour. Chapter 1067, Devour. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ching Cheng, I'm here now. Ignoring all the confusion, hope and fear coming his way, Shuo Fan only felt pain for the delicate woman next to him as she shivered. He held her shoulder lightly, drawing her into a hug and consoling her softly. Ching Cheng leaned on him and slowly calmed down. To the other's amazement, at peace Shuo Fan was her rock. Even as her mind was dulled, her heart knew no fear, no worry. By Shuo Fan's side Bailey Jingtian's face twitched, enraged at Shuo Fan's crass lack of respect to him. Shuo Fan's attitude was insufferable, a blatant insult to his station with the Crown Prince's extensive education. He could endure some pompous fool's cocky attitude and disregard it. That much, he could do, but Shuo Fan gave him no regard at all, writing them off as being dead already. It was absurd and outrageous. Shuo Fan's casual taunt of not remembering his name was insufferable enough, but now he was enraged by that guy's complete disinterest. Sure, a taunt ruffled feathers, but at least the guy was looking at you. While now, why would he even taunt when he didn't even spare you a glance? But through Shuo Fan's caring and thoughtful attitude, Bailey Jingtian came to realize he was only looking at his lover. He didn't just taunt me, but never took me for anything of worth either. He was the best crown prince in the lands. Bailey Jingtian, how dare you not even face me? The crown prince was not just a prince, but the pride of the Sword Star Empire, and also had the same fault. Unable to stand rejection, he also knew better than letting anger cloud his judgment, especially with Shuo Fan's vanishing act and instant disposal of Bailey Jinggang at the same time. He first needed to understand the intricacies of it all before he took any rash actions. Shuo Fan's power made him feel threatened, so caution was a must. Killing the strongest prince under him in a jiffy ought to warrant at least that much, no? Frigid Rain Sword King reported to Patriarch that the punk has soul harmony stage level strength. What a deadly lie. Then again, it was deadly for his second brother, though not without merit, having found meaning in his death by exposing the enemy's eerie skill. If it were me having to face that, the loss would be tragic. Bailey Jingtian whined in his head, giving the other princes a look. They nodded, turned to Shuo Fan and charged him all at the same time from all directions. Their hands flashed with thunder sword waves, aiming for Shuo Fan, and the girl Shuo Fan could not dodge them, not in this situation. But blocking wouldn't prove to be any easier, as there were just too many of them and some would be able to strike true as he defended against another. The best case in this scenario was escape, fleeing, but not just running away, blinking out of sight like he did before, and with Bailey Jingtian watching him like a hawk. The instant he figured out the iness of the skill, Shuo Fan would be done for either way. It was Bailey Jingtian's win for sure. Smirking at his cunning plan, Bailey Jingtian lifted his finger, flashing with a sword wave, wanting to capitalize on Shuo Fan's weakness as he made his move to end him then and there. Shuo Fan, though, had better things to do than mind Bailey Jingtian's petty tricks and the onslaught of prince coming his way. like being thoughtful to Chu Qingcheng, still the same blatant disregard. Ouyang Changqing, however, was only sweating harder the closer the enemy got. Zhuo Fan was his lifeline, his savior, elder brother, brother Zhuo, master Zhuo. The Bailey fiends are coming for you, dodge. Zhuo Fan held Chu Qingcheng's delicate waist, humming a song as if to a child. Wush tilde. The 8 experts were within 5 meters of him in seconds. Master Zhu, don't do anything reckless. This isn't the time for romance. You should leave dates for after you're safe. Please. Ouyang Changqing cried out, and panicked Zhuo Fan still held Chu Qingcheng close, showing a fond smile as he hummed into her ears. The others weren't that worried though, sighing, brother Zhuo, a man with a block of ice for heart, is now thawed whenever around junior sister Qingcheng. I just can't believe he'd go as far as to hum for junior sister Qingcheng just to settle her startled heart. Screw believing. This is no time for flirting. Ouyang Changqing cursed, his face falling as tears welled up. I know why you complain about his sloppy attitude. In times like these, he just looks after his wife. Shouldn't he at least do that after he settles the problem? Doesn't he realize that if he dies, there'd be no hope for us all? Especially myself. I want to romance my wife too, I just need a chance. Could he please not rob this from me? Ouyang Changqing whined to Murong Shui blushed and looked away. I'd much rather die here and now. Ouyang Changqing sighed, Sister Shui, you wouldn't agree with me even in death. Just why? Wush tilde. The princes were just a short meter from Zhuo Fan, yet he still didn't care, holding on to Chu Qingcheng. Bailey Jingtian found it odd. Why isn't he moving? Does he really want them to attack him? Doesn't he care for his dumb wife? Anyone would be handicapped when protecting something. Does he really believe that he can take on the 8 of them even with such a handicap? Not even I can do it, so how can he? Bailey Jingtian's eyes shook in disbelief, but he still watched on, not wanting to miss anything. As for the wounded, they were also watching. In worry, Zhuo Fan's death meant theirs. Zhuo Fan's survival meant they'd see another day. Wush tilde. One figure flashed in front as he extended his finger to shoot a sword wave for Zhuo Fan. It's the 3rd prince. Murong Shui shouted, his below crown prince and 2nd prince, but still very strong. He's the one that blocked me before. Ouyang Changqing joined. Brother Zhuo can't fight back now, not with. Whoosh. 7 more sword waves launched for Zhuo Fan, an attack that would definitely cripple Zhuo Fan once they landed. Everyone tensed, clenching their sweaty palms. It was now or never. Any later and Zhuo Fan would become bloody pieces on the ground. Sensing the danger at long last, Zhuo Fan paused and his features hardened. Too little, too late. 3rd prince smirked, needing only an inch for his attack to reach Zhuo Fan's waist and run him through. 3rd prince grinned in supreme confidence at the imminent victory. His head is mine. Patriarch will reward me handsomely. Ha ha ha. Wush tilde. A cold wind blew just then, baffling the 3rd prince to no end. Where did that bloodthirst come from? He found Zhuo Fan's icy eyes staring at him like a dead man, a gaze that made him shiver. The 3rd prince was so close to victory, yet felt like prey instead. Zhuo Fan's piercing stare felt so oppressive, like death's scythe on his soft neck. Zhuo Fan only stared at him, ignoring the other 7 attackers. Scum, how dare you come close to Qingcheng? Die. The boom that followed made the air warp in 1,000 meters around Zhuo Fan as a black thunderflame inferno exploded in all directions, enveloping the 8 and swallowing them whole. Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage, Thunderflame Space Crusher. His right eye flashed with 4 golden halos while the left held a berserk black thunderflame. Zhuo Fan was in the center of the roaring flames yet held Chu Qingcheng with utmost care as he hummed. He might be soft around Chu Qingcheng, but cruel to any other, a true devil. Any that approached would be devoured. Chapter 1068, The True Strongest. Chapter 1068, The True Strongest. Proofreader, Papatonks. What? That's. Bailey Jingtian squinted, his body jerked, looking with total disbelief at how his brothers were taken by the darkness. SSS tilde. The sizzling sounds of the flames gave the impression the fire was growing, yet it showed no movement in but a blink of an eye. All life had been swallowed by these black flames. Bailey Jingtian hovered above, his brow seeping with sweat. The attack he got ready at the tip of his finger shook along with it in hesitation. It was failure on his part for not taking into account that Zhuo Fan had maybe another strange skill under his sleeve, one that proved even deadlier, taking 8 strong princes down. How can this be? Just what is that black fire? How the hell can it prevent 8 soul harmony experts from even letting a sound out as it took them? Bailey Jingtian looked at the black swirling dome of flames with a heavy brow, his calm now replaced with fear. His mind might reject such a foreign feeling, but his heart wouldn't stop hammering in his chest. Wu Qingqiu's group were stunned. They knew Zhuo Fan was the best, that he had a counter for the 8 princes, but not even they imagined it would be so clean and deadly. Their eyes were almost falling out of their sockets. These were the same 8 Bailey princes that wiped the floor with them moments ago. So how then, when Zhuo Fan entered the picture, they became lambs, giving him an easy time dispatching them from this world? No, they're no lambs, but Zhuo Fan being too strong, stronger than we can imagine. This is the true strongest disciple in the lands, the next invincible sword. Wu Qingqiu and Yang Mo sighed. Just a few years and we can no longer compare. Yeah, elder brother's eyes got stronger. Yi Lin sighed as well, shaking his head. Only a lick of black fire almost got me killed last time, but now he could let out so much more. Even I would be finished in an instant. Elder brother's strength is beyond anyone's. There's none among his peers in the entire world that can match up to him. Yi Lin glanced at Bailey Jingtian above with a hint of disdain. Bailey Jingtian felt the taunt on his skin and met his eyes, but then again, Zhuo Fan was tougher than anything he'd seen. Bailey Jingtian stared at the black fire hard, putting more power in his sword wave. Ouyang Changqing and Murong Shui, on the other hand, were gaping at the hissing thunder flame. They knew Zhuo Fan was above them and their only slim chance at survival, but it turned out the hope was bigger than ever. It became a guarantee. So much so their fears were gone. Fear brought on by Bailey Jingtian. They could tell as well that he no longer was as cocky in the face of those twisting flames. The devil is terrifying. I wanted to remove him myself, but now I see how naive I've been. Murong Shui's feelings were all over the place. The devil is not something I can ever hope to take down. But it has to be done, before he becomes the next invincible sword and brings hell on earth. Murong Shui hoped and worried, filled with constant dissonance. Who tilde? At the next light breeze, the thunder flames vanished like they were never there, leaving behind nothing at all. There was no sign of life, not from the previous 8 princes and neither from the earth. The only one standing was Zhuo Fan in center, holding Chu Qingcheng with care. Unaffected by the attack, Zhuo Fan hummed with a soft smile, to which Chu Qingcheng relaxed and calmed down. Zhuo Fan smiled brighter, his humming slowly stopping. Chu Qingcheng smiled in his arms, drifting into a peaceful sleep. The onlookers blinked, more shocked than ever of Zhuo Fan's strength. They just witnessed how he punched the second strongest prince to oblivion and now how he erased the other 8 from existence. All of it was done not on account of it being the best way to deal with them, but only to soothe Chu Qingcheng's heart. This was called killing. With a smile the guy spared them no attention to the attackers, not even a thought, and yet he killed them all. Now that was strength. 8 went at him from all sides, yet his wife took priority still. What did that make of them? Bugs, annoying and pesky bugs. He not once considered them any danger to even touch him. Everyone's gazes shifted after this event, changing the way they looked at Zhuo Fan. With respect and bafflement, Zhuo Fan was like an immortal standing leagues above them, not something mere mortals could ever hope to even catch a glimpse of. This was a level beyond anything they could fathom. They looked at him with shock and daze, even hoping that maybe they could attain his impossible position. Murong Shui was the same, having the odd feeling that Zhuo Fan was not the devastating demon she thought him to be, her perception of him now soaring higher in her mind. All eyes were looking lost, forgetting the time and place, even as Zhuo Fan only stared at one person, only Qingcheng. I'll take you to safety. Tracing her gentle sleeping face, Zhuo Fan smiled with love and care. Whoosh. There was a sharp whistle just then and thunder boomed as a purple sword wave of incredible power shot for the lovely couple. The pressure from it was so huge, the breath of the others caught in their throat, unable to move from the weight, watching with shocked eyes as the stones around them were being turned to dust and floating about. It's so strong it breaks the world's laws. So if it lands, there'll be nothing left of him. Everyone gasped, jerked awake by the sudden change. Ouyang Changqing cursed, Bailey Jingtian, you damn bastard. Have you no dignity to sneak attack? Yet you still call yourself the best disciple in the lands. Humph, standing by now will really mean that I lost that title. Bailey Jingtian cared naught for his empty words, shouting as his gaze turned mad. Zhuo Fan, Let's see you dodge sundering sword Apec. From all that transpired, he understood that he held no chance in fighting Zhuo Fan alone. So while this might be dishonorable, he still chose to go for a sneak attack. The timing also coincided with Zhuo Fan's worst moment, unable to move as he wished. By attacking from afar as well, he avoided the same miserable fate as his brothers Zhuo Fan had to take it, the outcome based on their strength. But with him being in the Genesis stage while the enemy in the Soul Harmony stage, winning was guaranteed, no? Ha ha ha, with me on the high ground and him below, it's perfect. Bailey Jingtian's heart brimmed with confidence. A shame he didn't understand Zhuo Fan's at all. Divine Eye of the Void had 7 stages, and coupled with the apocalyptic Thunderflame Eye, he had many variations of which he only showed 2 who tilde. The mighty sword energy shot for Zhuo Fan, unleashing sharp winds as it passed, yet he still didn't budge, only his face grew colder, murmuring, "A bystander dares to interfere when my wife is sleeping?" "What did you say?" Bailey Jingtian asked in shock. Zhuo Fan closed his eyes, a cruel smile forming. Then he flashed them open, shining brighter than ever. His right eye glowed in 2 golden halos and his left contained the wild black thunderflame. I said. Zhuo Fan shouted, "Die!" Divine Eye of the Void 2nd stage, Thunderflame Void Annihilation. Whoosh tilde. A beam of black crackling flames shot at the skies, straight for Bailey Jingtian. Chapter 1069, Waiting for Death. Chapter 1069, Waiting for Death. Proofreader. Papatonks. Bam! An earth-shaking explosion sounded when the 2 powers collided, though it hardly showed anything spectacular. That was because in that instant, the shockwave got burned to nothing by the black flames. Next was the sword wave's turn, starting at the edge, burned away in no time at all. The flames ate a third of the attack and was still going strong until there was hardly anything left of the sword wave. How is this possible? Bailey Jingtian gasped, sweat trickling down his brow. Zhuo Fan has many more aces, with the black thunderflame even countering his sword energy, one that had an even greater power. He could not see that the thunderflame was backed by the Divine Eye of the Void's 2nd stage, a move that broke any barriers. The strongest attack of this moveset, only made deadlier with the fire. The sundering sword art could be as strong as it wanted, but since he was not a sword king, he could do nothing in the face of these devouring flames. Bailey Jingtian rushed to make signs to strengthen the sword wave. Even as it was failing in the confrontation, the thunderflame was invincible, smashing through the rest of the attack and reaching his chest. The imminent danger made the proximity of an early death much more pronounced. Bailey Jingtian wanted to fall back, but it was too late. In panic, his hand flashed and a silvery sword appeared. Bang! With a loud boom, the clash resulted in actually stopping the black beam of flame, saving him. Bailey Jingtian grinned and looked smug. "Here, I found your black fire's weakness. It might be amazing, but it's nowhere near able to destroy everything in the world. This permafrost sword of mine isn't up to the level of the 5 divine swords, but it is a 12th grade spiritual weapon, housing a spirit from a 10 miles deep icy pond, turning it into a weapon just below a divine sword. No matter how creepy your black flame is, it won't reach me. Without this ace of yours, you can do nothing either, ha ha ha." Everyone jerked and turned to Zhuo Fan. His brow shook, squinting. A spiritual weapon with a spirit is a sacred weapon, but unless it's of the 6th grade, it still won't stop the apocalyptic thunderflame. Zhuo Fan smirked. Bailey Jingtian's face twitched. He still has a way out of this mess. He only shouted back there to taunt Zhuo Fan, to get the guy to take out more of his cards. But the reaction only baffled him. Is it dismay or an insidious plot? Zhuo Fan soon answered him, not through dismay or some scheme, since none were needed. He showed that the rare 12th grade spiritual weapon would prove a dashed hope in saving him. Sharp cracking sound echoed that caught Bailey Jingtian's undivided attention. He watched, frozen, as his glittering poker sported black cracks. Black flames erupted from them and crawled all over it like maggots. SSS tilde. Bailey Jingtian's eyes shook and gasped from horror. The lifeline he depended on was shaken hard, the sword. Boom. The precious 12th grade spiritual weapon was blown into useless bits. While the thunderflame was like a bloodthirsty animal, eating everything. The flame turned into a snake, shooting for Bailey Jingtian with the promise of a cruel death. Bailey Jingtian's legs turned to jelly, his face a mask of disbelief and shock. His 12th grade spiritual weapon barely fended off the thunderflame's savagery. What the hell that thing even is? It's monstrous. Bailey Jingtian wailed on the inside, but with the thunder flame closing in fast, he flung his head to the side to let the fire pass. Looking like a whipped dog, it was an action most unbefitting of the crown prince of the Swordstar Empire, but life was always more precious than how others saw him. Seeing the black thunder flame fly away, Bailey Jingtian was sweating buckets as he gasped. The fear was still palpable from his brush with death, but at least he came out on top, and alive. Bailey Jingtian only took one of Zhuo Fan's moves and already was keenly aware how deadly he was. He almost died back there. Looking down at Zhuo Fan, Bailey Jingtian turned heavy. He found none of the bragging from before, realizing how close he was to dying should he try and slip away. He believed that the moment he turned his back, another thunder flame would come and he'd die for sure. He was focusing all his energy on the problem and didn't have the time to be distracted with some empty threats. Zhuo Fan was like a reaper, never taking him out of his sight. The slightest mistake would be his grave, since escape was out and fighting didn't help. What then? Stall. Bailey Jingtian was a crown prince through and through, sharp and educated. In this dangerous situation, against such an abomination, waiting was the best choice. He just had to dodge anything Zhuo Fan threw at him. That should be enough to keep him alive. As for escaping, he could not. Lest he presented his open back, he needed to wait for any of the Sword Kings to come and he'd win. Bailey Jingtian cautiously looked at Zhuo Fan, unmoving. Damn that witch Bailey Yuyu, sending fake information. You call that a soul harmony stage level? Curses, not even a Genesis stage expert is as dangerous as this freak. That damn broad got all the princes killed. Bailey Yuyu had indeed stated the truth, since she only saw Zhuo Fan fight Murong Shui that one time. When he let her, she had no way of knowing his true strength. Zhuo Fan paused, seeing him just standing there. His eyes flashed with realization and chuckled. Bailey Jingtian was confused. Why isn't he attacking? It only works better for me, so why is he waiting as well? He doesn't care about a Sword King coming over. He's only going to get himself killed, wasting time. Bailey Jingtian was mystified, standing there dumbly. The people below noticed the situation and pointed at him with mocking smiles. Look at the fool, he's frozen stiff. Bailey Jingtian's eye twitched, feeling the disdain on his skin, but move he did not. He just stared the devil in the eye as always. What do bugs know? This is tactic. All methods are fair so long as they bring me victory. That's why stalling is the best choice. Humph, uncultured swine. Though it was obvious this crown prince's ingenious tactic did not go noticed by the common folk, the jeering continued. Even the unmoving Zhuo, like himself, was chuckling and shaking his head. The crown prince was utterly confused. He'd get why the bugs were stupid, but why would he act the same? He suddenly cried out, still confused, but now in serious pain. Looking back, he was shocked at what he saw. How can? SSS tilde. The black thunder flame was burning the pristine hand of the Grand Crown Prince, working its way up his shoulder. The audience laughed harder than ever, in ridicule. Ouyang Changqing was the loudest, looking for the perfect moment to cut him down a peg. It turns out the strongest disciple in the lands, the great Crown Prince of Swordstar Empire, is nothing but a moron. He didn't even notice his sleeve was burning, only when his hand caught on fire. It's definitely part of the sharp instincts of the best of the best. I heard many say of waiting for death, but only now I get what they meant. Zhuo Fan's patronizing was far more savage, attacking the Crown Prince at his worst moment. Chapter 1070, I just didn't say it. Chapter 1070, I just didn't say it. Proofreader, Papatonks. The black flame licking Bailey Jingtian's arm ate more and more of it as it spread, going from his arm to his shoulder to finish the job. Bailey Jingtian shook his arm all over the place, while not forgetting to howl at the skies. The searing pain stabbing his heart and making him break out in sweat, his face a twisted mask of his sharp features. Yet the worst wasn't the pain. Having gone through extensive training to learn to bear with extreme pain no matter what he tried, flicking his hand or using Yuan Qi, it would stick to him like a leech. Horrifying him, he could not snuff it out. Another image then surfaced in his mind, that of being cooked alive. Here and now Bailey Jingtian's heart raced in terror, panicking and wailing, but nothing worked. Seeing the black flame unaffected by anything he tried, his heart sank in despair, about to have a mental breakdown. Regret was eating his insides for not being just a wee bit more careful, for not even noticing how the black beam of flames grazed his clothes. He would have removed the sleeve and easily dealt with the danger rather than be in so much pain. His real regret, however, was about Shuo Fan. The guy showcased power beyond anything he'd seen, like a demon archon. That made him obsessed with reading his every move to counter them, thinking that he could survive that way. When a savage tiger was eyeing you as prey, you would ignore the ants gnawing at your feet in face of great danger. People ignore anything but the source of said danger. Alas, the wee ant turned out to carry a fatal poison as it bit him. He had fallen for it and could only wait for the poison to spread and kill him. It was no less deadly than the tiger, though way more painful. A pity he did not immediately notice it. That did not include the audience, who was very clear on what was happening and enjoying his plight before he even realized it. Shuo Fan scratched his nose amidst Bailey Jingtian's incessant wailing. Though he couldn't fight a smile, I could tell by the way he dodged that it wasn't a clean one and the flames stuck to his sleeve, but I just didn't say it. I saw it too. It was but a spark of fire that only grew with time. Yi Lin's face shook. I just didn't feel like sharing, seeing him so focused. The wounded guys on the ground looked at each other, then at Bailey Jingtian raving around with taunting smiles. Ouyang Changqing patted Yi Lin's shoulder, complaining theatrically, "Brother Yi, that's not right. We're all righteous cultivators here and a win only counts when done fairly. How could you keep it from him that his sleeve had something so deadly stuck to it? That's not how a righteous and honest man acts. If it were me, I would have instantly warned him of his sleeve so we could compete in a real fight." "You don't say. Why the silence all this time then?" Yi Lin gave him a patronizing smile. Ouyang Changqing smiled back, looking at the rest with his head high and using a scornful tone. "Didn't I say it already? As a righteous cultivator, I should be honest, but having fought with the crown prince and not found him to be one of us. Shuo Fan is a demonic cultivator, so anything goes. So in the spirit of fairness, I had to keep silent when his sleeve was struck, even signaling everyone to keep quiet as well. It wouldn't do for the audience to meddle in the fight of real experts. So we just stood and watched instead. Crown Prince, you may continue the fight. We promise to be nothing more than spectators and never interfere, ha ha ha. Screw you. You rotten bastards, arg." Bailey Jingtian was struggling in the air still, with the fire reaching his shoulder and the pain only growing in intensity. Nothing he tried worked in removing it while he was here burning alive. Those fools below were having the time of their lives at his expense. Cursing and mocking him, he snapped back, but that only got them to mock him harder, finding him weak. "You hopeless case dare raise your tone at us? Hehe, go ahead, not like you have any future left by the looks of it. We'll just wait for you to burn out while you dance around like a monkey and raving, humph." Shuo Fan smiled, ignoring him and returning with Chu Qingcheng to the others on the ground. The black thunderflame didn't stop till all was ash. Even a Sword King had to be careful around it, let alone a mere Genesis stage cultivator. There was no point in minding a dead man walking grinning evilly. Shuo Fan ignored the cawing in his ear, walking with his wife whoosh. Just then, a sword wave flashed through the sky and Bailey Jingtian's shoulder whoosh tilde. The arm sword, engulfed in black flames. Bailey Jingtian felt his right arm gone, with blood gushing out of his shoulder. A tall man appeared next to him, pressing his acupoints and stopping the bleeding. But even that short moment of bleeding out was enough to cover half his clothes in it. Bailey Jingtian's eyes shook, jerking his head at where his right hand used to be. The sword wave had taken it from him. "Crown Prince, I had no choice but to do it." The man spoke casually. Shuo Fan paused and frowned. He looked back and then clenched his fists. "Beat the brat and the big guy shows up." The Crown Prince was dealt with, then a Sword King had to show up. The others could pretty much guess who arrived to help Sword Star's Crown Prince. Their mocking smiles froze and gulped hard before turning a pleading look and hopeful gaze to Shuo Fan. "Bro, you made light work of the Crown Prince, but can you handle a Sword King as well?" Shuo Fan took his time to breathe in and out, holding Chu Qingcheng while walking over to them without any hint of anxiety. The man's eyes twinkled, his eyes bright. Bailey Jingtian looked at Shuo Fan with nothing but hatred and fury. He clenched his only fist, the nails digging into his palm as he roared, "Thunder Sword King, kill him. Kill him now. Crown Prince, you're hurt and we should first treat your wound." Bailey Yulei got an idea of what happened by looking at the man below and the Crown Prince's fury. He, however, looked for an excuse not to follow the Crown Prince's order. Bailey Jingtian was unaware of the Thunder Sword King's weird attitude of not being interested in taking Zhuo Fan's head back to Patriarch and earning his reward. For some reason, the Thunder Sword King was more interested in the Crown Prince's condition, but Bailey Jingtian was beyond reason, rage having taken over his faculties. Thunder Sword King, listen here. The Patriarch wants him dead. You have to get his head. I may not be able to do it myself, but I'm content with seeing him die. Bailey Yulei did not move, only looked around. Zhuo Fan ignored the threat above, walking with Chu Qingcheng to the others and taking out a vial. He opened it and let green pills fly to his friends. Eat it, then take Qingcheng and leave. Giving Chu Qingcheng to Shui Ruohua, Zhuo Fan spoke calmly. Wu Qingqiu rushed to say, but what about you? Someone must keep the Sword King here. Zhuo Fan stood and turned around with conviction. His eyes shone golden and black. Chapter 1071, Insist on Leaving. Chapter 1071, Insist on Leaving. Proofreader. Papatonks. Whoosh tilde. Zhuo Fan's sharp gaze met Bailey Yulei's eyes, making him shiver and feel threatened that the kid actually had what it took to kill him. How is this possible? He may be strong, but only in the soul harmony stage. How can I feel danger from him? Bailey Yulei glanced at the one-armed Crown Prince and his heart sank. Not just an average soul harmony expert, or the Crown Prince wouldn't suffer so much. And this is because I came on time, or the Crown Prince would have left this world. Bailey Yulei stared back at Zhuo Fan, feeling conflicted. The boy is nothing like the bluffer Yu said he is. He is inscrutable and hard to deal with. Bailey Yulei's brow shook, just standing there and facing Zhuo Fan as he did the same. The others had recovered with Zhuo Fan's pills and could at least move now. They left this danger zone while tending to Chu Qingcheng, though it was now unclear if Zhuo Fan could take on a Sword King this time. Sword Kings were the peak of power in the central area, at the level of Murong Lai and Ouyang Lingtian. Zhuo Fan was the best disciple in the lands, even making a mockery of the central area's 10 princes, but he was just that, a disciple. He still had a long way to go before facing these seasoned veterans. The odds of getting out alive from a Sword King were practically nil. They all worried seeing Zhuo Fan facing such a danger with a straight back. Shui Ruohua was reminded of how Zhuo Fan had the girls go ahead while he stopped 500 people from following them, ending up fighting to death. She teared up as she pulled Chu Qingcheng harder. Qingcheng, today is just like that day. I just hope that this time he won't disappear like before. Zhuo Fan frowned as the others just stood there and shouted, why are you standing here? Go. Brother Zhuo, you have saved our lives. This gratitude I shall never forget. Ouyang Changqing spoke firmly and with pride, now you are facing a strong enemy and I'm not about to let you do it alone. This is not right. I am no coward. We may not be of much help, but we can at least cheer and share death and life together. Don't worry, Brother Zhuo, for you have us right behind you. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes, ticked off by this pompous fool, cursing, are you mental? You know you're of no help, so what damn use will you have? I told you to get Qingcheng to safety and I'll be grateful. Why would you stay to die when I'm giving my life? To hell with dying with you. Who'll look after my wife? Oh, right. Brother Zhuo, I am not like Yi Lin, I'll be sure to complete your request. I will definitely repay the favor. Ouyang Changqing nodded and cupped his hands. Yi Lin was annoyed. What was that? How are you different? Brother Zhuo entrusted his wife to you, and what happened? You had the enemy endanger her and take her hostage, not doing anything right. I am not so unreliable like you and will fulfill my mission. Brother Zhuo, I won't let you down, you only know how to prance around. The only reason they stopped us is because you didn't let us leave. Sister-in-law would have long been safe by now. You shouldn't cast blame so easily. How can you blame me? Think about it. If I could find you, wouldn't the princes find you at some point as well? I was saying. Yi Lin and Ouyang Changqing were like natural enemies, fighting even now in this serious situation. Zhuo Fan popped a vein. Why do these fools always argue? Alone they were fine, but together they ruined everything. Bailey Jingtian laughed at seeing them bickering like fools. Don't you even think about running now. Thunder Sword King, go. Let's see how long you'll last. Bailey Jingtian pointed at them with hatred. Kill them all. I will be sure to commend you to the patriarch. The noise below instantly stopped at his order. They all turned to watch them in fear, especially Bailey Yulei. Zhuofan looked grave as well, calculating a way out of this. Bailey Yulei, however, was in no rush to follow his order. Bailey Jingtian started and looked in confusion. Thunder Sword King, he is a criminal that the patriarch wants. Why is it you're hesitating now when you're usually anxious to strike? Bailey Yulei glanced at him and scratched his nose. Bailey Jingtian's eye twitched, suspicion festering in his heart. Whoosh tilde. Another person then showed up here. Barley Yuyu oh, you're, Ouyang Chongqing cried out, but saw Zhuofan silent. Brother Zhuo, isn't she with you? Why is she over there? Zhuofan only explained who she was to the leader because she stole the heaven sealing sword. Ouyang Chongqing, a mere disciple, was in the dark. Bailey Yulei sighed, now finding a suitable excuse. Crown Prince, you're hurt now and would be best to retreat to tend your wounds. I'll take you to safety. Let's leave the grand merit to Yuyu, since Patriarch has been in a foul mood around her. I see. Thunder Sword King is looking after Frigid Rain Sword King. Ha ha ha. Bailey Jingtian looked at them and his eyes shone. All right, let Frigid Rain Sword King take the credit. But I still want to watch as she rips Zhuofan's head from his corpse. Barley Yuyu and Bailey Yulei frowned. Barley Yuyu spoke. Crown Prince, you are a valuable talent that the Patriarch carefully raised. You need to look after yourself. With your heavy wounds, it's best we address them sooner. Just leave it to me. Brother Yulei, hurry and take the Crown Prince to safety. All right. Bailey Yulei nodded and acted. Bailey Jingtian flicked his hand in defiance. No, I'll never know peace unless I see Zhuofan die. I must watch how he is blown apart. Your Highness, leave it to me. Or do you not trust me? Barley Yuyu huffed. The Crown Prince's health is important to the Patriarch. Endangering you just so we could earn some credit will only earn his ire and wrath. Crown Prince, please tend to your wounds at once and don't make it harder on us, or we will have no choice but to insist on leaving. Bailey Jingtian winced. Frigid Rain Sword King, I appreciate your care. But I will have to insist. It has nothing to do with you. I will take full responsibility before the Patriarch. Crown Prince knows very well how the Patriarch is, going after the one who faulted. You believe just owning up will be enough? Bailey Yulei stared at him. I hope the Crown Prince won't make it any harder than it needs to be in taking care of yourself. We will have no choice but to insist if you delay any further. You are welcome to report us to the Patriarch, but we are doing this for your own good, which I'm sure he'll understand. Barley Jingtian eyes shook, staring at the Sword King and then at Zhuofan, gnashing his teeth. I shall refrain from speaking the worst, since we are all the foundation of the Bailey clan and do not want to break the harmony. But Sword Kings, you need to understand, is this worth it? Bailey Yulei shook and sighed. Crown Prince, after you. Fine, I hope you won't regret it later. Bailey Jingtian flicked his lone hand and spat before flying off. Barley Yulei gave Barley Yuyu a relieved look then followed him. Now, only one Sword King remained, showing a peculiar smile to Zhuofan. Chapter 1072, Pursuit. Chapter 1072, Pursuit. Proofreader, Papatonks. Floating down gently, like a breeze, Barley Yuyu kept her cold eyes on Zhuofan as she approached. The others were tense, taking a step back in worry. Barley Yuyu had been with Zhuofan for a while, but they had no idea what went on between them. They were utterly confused whether Frigid Rain Sword King's bloodthirst was friendly or antagonistic. They just couldn't figure it out, further raising their anxiety. On just what side is this woman standing? Sighing, Zhuofan put on a smile as he glanced at the approaching Bailey Yuyu. I never expected you of all people to take my side at this time. Are you blind or something? How am I on your side? Humph, Narcissus. Pausing, Barley Yuyu glared again at Zhuofan, but her cheeks were now a bit rosy while her eyes spat fire. The Patriarch wants your puny life. I came to collect it. The rest trembled, looking tense as they watched with hearts in their throat. Zhuofan just shook his head. You'd have killed me by now if that was the case, and not forced the Crown Prince to leave. And who was that brother, such a loyal Sword King? He knows his crossing. Bailey Yutian yet still agreed to help you. Though your brother's a bit soft, why did he wish to help you save me yet still spare the Crown Prince's life? Won't he be more at ease by removing the star witness? Brother Yulei seems like a rough man usually, but he's in fact the most friendly among us sword kings. The Crown Prince is the pillar of the Bailey clan and brother could not just watch him to die. Glaring some more, Bailey Yu had finally reached him. You're nothing but evil. He risked so much to help you, yet you still wanted to use him to kill your enemies, his own kin. Have you no sympathy? Murong Shui bobbed her head, glaring with hatred at Zhuo Fan. Ouyang Changqing cleared his throat. Ahem, Sister Shui, please mind the situation. Brother Zhuo is on our side. His death means ours as well. Irresolute and compromising in morals, humph. Murong Shui turned her sharp glare on him. She was opposite of Zhuo Fan, against everything he believed, but she now had to put all these aside as she walked with the devil in these circumstances. This was the result of being helpless, of having the conscience to aspire to the greater good but sometimes becoming utterly powerless against doing anything about it. All she could do was to keep herself unmarred by this devil. Vigilance was what staved off evil. As the saying goes, good triumphs over evil, but just because someone says it doesn't mean they aren't a demon themselves. Shrugging, Barley Yu's critique went right over Zhuo Fan, who chuckled, I don't have much sympathy to speak of, but I do know how to appreciate you two risking yourselves to help me. I will be sure to return the favor when you are in difficulty. Screw you. You are the one in difficulty. Barley Yu snapped her sharp eyes on him, refuting his words. Zhuo Fan shook his head, his eyes shimmering. Today you helped me and difficulties are still going to come in the future. Ha ha ha, anywho, I'll be sure to remember your help. Now come along. Zhuo Fan turned and put on a grave face. There's still a distance to the teleportation array. Let's move right away. It should be 15 minutes, even less if we hurry. Wu Qingqiu added. Zhuo Fan nodded and waved over Barley Yu. Yu, escort them out of here. You're still ordering me around like a servant. Didn't you decide to follow me just now? Zhuo Fan cocked an eyebrow and smiled, just like on the caravan trail, listen to my orders. Or you can just take my life like Bailey Yutian ordered you to, your choice. Why you? Barley Yu was conflicted, giving an angry huff, but still walked ahead and roared back at them, don't dawdle and run. Once other sword kings notice there will be no escaping. Barley Yu shot forward, her word though did not carry any answer. The others were stumped, but then they came to and hurried after her. When they glanced at Zhuo Fan, they were filled with shock and admiration. Ouyang Changqing patted Zhuo Fan's shoulder. Brother Zhuo, awesome. You're even poaching from the Invincible Swords team, his core members even. It used to be him and Bailey Jingwei who did the poaching so far, with Shangguan Feiyun and Danqing Shen running over to their side. Now Brother Zhuo had won over Frigid Rain Sword King, giving the Four Lands a reason to be proud. How did you do it? Ah, good looks. Zhuo Fan scratched his beyond-average face. He then went to Chu Qingqing's side, helping her with Shui Ruohua to rush to the teleportation array. Good looks? Ouyang Changqing frowned, scratching his own perfect face, mulling, Brother Zhuo used the honey trap and it worked? Doesn't that mean with my traits? Ah, was there another woman sword king in central area? Meanwhile, Crown Prince Bailey Jingtian flew with a dark face with Bailey Yulei watching him like a hawk. 3 people suddenly showed up and Bailey Jingtian cried, Sword Kings, please wait. They paused, which only made Bailey Yulei frown. He saw Bailey Jingtian's look and could tell what he was planning. He couldn't knock the prince out now, not in front of them. Oh, it's the Crown Prince and Brother Yulei, how come you're together? The trio looked curiously. The Crown Prince should be with the juniors and no Sword King would just waste time with them, so why? The trio scanned them and said in shock, Crown Prince, your arm. Don't remind me. Sighing, Bailey Jingtian looked morose and in pain as he teared up. The patriarch wanted Zhuo Fan's head, right? So my brothers and I went to get it. You found him? They gasped and then looked down. Curses, doesn't that mean they got all the credit for themselves? Crown Prince, then you must have won then and took his head. Did the other princes take it to the patriarch for a reward? The tears only grew larger in his eyes as Bailey Jingtian shook his head. What reward when the punk was savage? All my brothers have died at his hands. Even I lost my right arm. It's only thanks to Thunder Sword King that I still kept my life. What? The trio gave them a long look, stunned. The crown prince is the best among his peers, among all the lands. But not even with the other 9 princes could he beat that kid. Devil Mountain disciples are anything but normal. The shock was brief and their eyes shone again, this time on Bailey Yulei with a fake smile and cupped hands. Then Brother Yulei must have taken the credit. Congratulations. The patriarch will be sure to reward you well. Maybe he will even let you observe Sundering Sword for a few months and train. Brother Yulei's power will be the highest among us, ha ha ha. Bailey Yulei's face sank against these duplicitous kin of his. All he could do was nod. I fear you misunderstand. Bailey Jingtian recalled the hatred and fury from before and waved. Thunder Sword King is so noble that seeing me hurt, wanted to take me to safety and recover. I am touched by his dedication to even forego the great reward. Then the trio lit up with a vile smirk. Bailey Yulei pointed behind, his sinister gaze peeking at Bailey Yulei. Frigid Rain Sword King happened to be there. Thunder Sword King let her take the credit. But the kid is quite skilled, while Frigid Rain Sword King had been around the kid for a while. She wouldn't be killing him so soon. She ought to be playing first. If you all. Right, we'll go there right now. The trio bobbed their heads, gave a rushed salute, and they were off where Crown Prince graciously pointed. Bailey Jingtian smirked at Bailey Yulei in insufferable smugness. Thunder Sword King, now you can look after me, ha ha ha. Bailey Yulei have a helpless nod and a sigh. Yu, my hands are tied. Those 3 won't let go of such a reward as easy. You're on your own. If you're willing to break it off with our clan over that kid, then no one can help you. Chapter 1073, Trick. Chapter 1073, Trick. Proofreader. Papatonks. Hurry it up, faster. Are you snails? Get a move on. Barley Yu was like a shrew with a whip, driving the herd while roaring at the top of her lungs. The guys were doing their best at running, while also having to endure the hag's incessant complaints. Ouyang Changqing was the first to cave. He was the best disciple in Sea Bright sect. After all, how could he suffer such indignity? Alas, not even he could muster the courage to really tell her off, not since she was a sword king on equal level as his dad. Sister, we're wounded. Could you take it just a bit slower? Try to underdash. You understand. Barley Yu snapped harder, spraying while saying, your weakness got you those wounds. You couldn't even hold your own against 10 brats. Just what the hell have you been doing all these years? A bunch of rejects, rabble, worms. Barley Yu had turned even more obnoxious, if that was even possible, not taking a break in her insults and criticisms. Ouyang Changqing made himself small and shook, never to open his mouth again despite the shame he felt. You think yapping helped anyone? That it's that easy to fight Bailey Jingtian, a freak. Just how long did it take to get to the stage of a sword king anyway? Then look at our ages, could we compare? Humph, witch, worms, trash, Barley Yu's curses were still as savage, telling it to everyone. Whether encouragement or whipping, all was good so long as they hurried the hell up. 15 minutes wasn't long nor short. But a sword king could catch up to them in no time at all. What would she do then, if one did find them? If she ended up fighting them, that would be betraying her clan, becoming an outcast forever. While ignoring the kids would be a death sentence, Zhuofan included, the only one she couldn't accept to see dead. This was the cause behind her anxiety. It only worked to drive her temper higher and take it out on them in the form of a nasty which ended up mute the second she looked in Zhuofan's icy eyes while passing by. Only to resume her heckling once she turned to the rest. Everyone else's admiration for him only grew. Zhuofan not just poached invincible swordsmen, but even has a sword king at his beck and call. Awesome. Is it really just looks though? Ouyang Changqing's hand flashed and took out a hand mirror, his sharp features reflecting in it. I'm certainly not behind that department, so why is sister? Pa. Then came Barley Yu's slap out of nowhere, shocking him. Silly, what is a grown man looking at his face for? You're worse than a woman. Get to stepping. Ouyang Changqing's face sank, his shoulders sagged, and his head hung as he played the good doggy. The other snickered and Zhuofan shook his head. This guy sure is a clown. Whoosh tilde. Barley Yu froze just then, her face darkening. Zhuofan frowned, looking back to shout at her, Yu, send these 2 off. Zhuofan hinted at Chu Qingcheng and Shui Ruohua. What about you? Barley Yu got his meaning, only making her worry more. Zhuofan shook his head, Qing Cheng is the one I can never let go. And I trust no one else more with Qing Cheng than senior sister Shui. You must take them and I'll be at ease. I'll then go to North Sea where they'll have a hard time finding me. Chu Qingcheng's dull gaze entered Barley Yuyu's sight with a complicated feeling. She turned to Zhuo Fan in hesitation. You turned your back on Bailey Yutian to save me. I am truly touched. I am sorry for telling you that I didn't need you. Now I do need you, to take my wife to safety. Zhuo Fan stared into her eyes as he spoke. You know that staying won't help blocking the three of them anyway. Moreover, do you really want to wear the stigma of a traitor? You came to help me and don't want to see you suffer for it. It's best if you don't meet with them. Take the girls, I have my own means of surviving. Don't you trust me after all we've been through? Barley Yuyu gnashed her teeth, then grabbed Chu Qingcheng and Shui Ruohua. She shot straight for the teleportation array. Her voice echoed from behind, make sure you don't die, rascal. Hey, why is sister leaving? Ouyang Changqing blinked, asking Zhuo Fan what was going on. Zhuo Fan smiled, you can't sense it since you're wounded. We felt 3 strong presences rushing over. They must be 3 sword kings. She helped me due to our friendship, but in the dark. She can't be found out by the others, so I had her take the girls to safety. Brother Zhuo, what about us? Ouyang Changqing started, his eyes big as saucers. Zhuo Fan mocked as he pointed at himself with smug confidence. Don't you have me? You can fight a sword king. Myself? No, but I came more than prepared on this trip up north. I even have ways to deal with that coot, invincible sword. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed, turning back and looking with a fierce face, not to mention, their target is me. There's no escape now. Whoosh. 3 figures appeared in the sky, the power of the sword kings enveloping them all and making them shiver. Only Zhuo Fan was still calm. With a mocking grin on his face, I heard Bailey's 5 sword kings are each amazing. I've met Thunder Sword King and Frigid Rain Sword King, then you must be Tempest Sword King, Cloud Sword King and Infernal Sword King. Ha ha ha, Sir Zhuo, it's been a while. We were all getting along so well, but now it seems that you became our target. How things change, ha ha ha. They cupped their hands to Zhuo Fan and laughed, though their eyes glittered, seeing him only as a glittering jewel. Sir Zhuo, we heard that Frigid Rain Sword King might be here and we also just sensed her trace. How come she isn't? Zhuo Fan showed his pearly whites, sporting an evil face. Who, that dumb broad? Ha ha ha, she was as much of a conceited moron as you are, trying to take my head. Humph, she fled after I got her good. I'm only standing here and not going after her to end her because I sensed you were coming. What? The trio cried in shock. You mean you wounded Frigid Rain Sword King? No way. You're just a soul harmony. Zhuo Fan mocked them, and it was Barley Yuyu who told you that, I reckon? Ha ha ha, and you believed her? What's that supposed to mean? The trio shook and frowned with a sly smirk on his face. Zhuo Fan squinted. Bailey Yutian pestered Barley Yuyu into helping me, but it was to read me, isn't it? You think I couldn't tell such an obvious trick? Humph, so why then would I show up all my cards to her? I bet you don't even know that your brats are almost all dead, with only the last one saved in time by Frigid Rain Sword King and Thunder Sword King. Not much of a save though, since I didn't care about him anyway and didn't hunt him down. For not even 2 sword kings could stop me from killing my prey. Humph, I am a Devil Mountain disciple, and don't you forget it. The aura of a king oozed out of Zhuo Fan and, despite being below the Genesis stage, everyone felt a shiver. Even the sword kings couldn't stave off the chill. Are Devil Mountain disciples that incredible? Does Frigid Rain Sword King's report only contain things he wanted to tell? Then they had to be extra cautious around him, especially since he gave a heavy wound to a sword king against the great credit the trio was about to earn with ease. They started to hesitate. Zhuo Fan was, of course, only bluffing and made himself bigger than he was, something the trio were totally oblivious of, scared by his blustering. Chapter 1074, The 3 Wounded. Chapter 1074, The 3 Wounded. Proofreader, Papatonks. Are these sword kings muscle heads to believe everything I say? Looking at the shaking sword kings above, Zhuo Fan smirked. Brother Zhuo, to think you're so strong that you even defeated a sword king. Ouyang Changqing looked at him with reverence. Bailey Jingtian hardly needed you to break a sweat. With Brother Zhuo by our side, we're at ease. But Brother Zhuo, how do you train to become beyond a sword king so soon when you're our peer? We should have the same resources, so how are you so obscenely strong? Zhuo Fan's brow twitched as he glanced at the pompous fool. Brother Ouyang, what is it, in your opinion, the most important in the cultivation world? I know that, Dad told me. It's loyalty. No, it's tricking. Zhuo Fan roared. You know exactly what went on with Frigid Rain Sword King, and now you even fell for my blustering? Or have you been cultivating the same as these sword kings, to become a musclehead? Murong Shui giggled, earning their odd looks, but turned serious the next second. The rest chuckled as well. Ouyang Changqing figured it out at last. Oh, Brother Zhuo tricked them. And they believed you. It depends on how solid the lie is. Their biggest doubt is whether Frigid Rain Sword King has run off. As long the truth isn't revealed, we can maintain this stalemate. Zhuo Fan's eyes shone, and then? Ouyang Changqing asked, won't we end up dead when they finally find out? Sure, because this is just a temporary plan to stall. Once help arrives, all will be settled. Help? Who? You'll know in time. But if she doesn't hurry, I'll be found out. While not finished, but, Zhuo Fan frowned. Ouyang Changqing was clueless. He had no idea that Zhuo Fan's goal was to get to the North Sea for the CAO and nothing else. The flames of war between the central area and the Four Lands could reach the heavens for all he cared. Sure, he could act as the third party to break the stalemate on the two's conflict, but that would only cut at his profits. For instance, he had it in him to finish the invincible sword then and there, but why would he? That would mean the collapse of the central area, and the Four Lands wouldn't be worn out any longer. Their armies would race to the central area to get their share of the spoils. This would end in the lands winning big and him getting nothing. Only when the two sides choke each other to the last man would he have the most to gain. While the central area and the Four Lands wanted to lord over the other, Zhuo Fan wanted them in balance, the same way he raised the Luo clan while facing tough but complex factions. It wouldn't help to break the balance until he milked it for all it was worth. Then after, rise to take it all. And that was no easy feat either, though his ambitions weren't something that any of the factions were privy to. As they spilled each other's blood, they were blissfully unaware of a common enemy cheering them on without lifting a finger to help, let alone harming a sword king. The Four-Land Alliance would have died in regret if it knew. They invited the wolf and even appointed him Grand Marshal. Sweating a little, the three sword kings above had fallen for Zhuo Fan's ruse. Lost as to what to do, a thin man turned to a middle-aged man, Brother Yuyun. For him to inflict heavy harm on Yuyu, he must be as strong as around three sword kings, or Yuyu wouldn't have gotten the chance to escape otherwise. That means even if we work together, we might still not take him down. Yeah, on account of his words being true. Bailey Yuyun muttered. The pudgy man with sideburns rushed to add, but his words match the Crown Prince's story. This proves Yuyu's report was wrong. How can a soul harmony cultivator harm the Crown Prince like that? And he did it all without any traps. Yuyu must have been in the dark of his strength as well to be forced to flee in defeat. Why else would the Crown Prince say Yuyu is here only to not catch a glimpse of her? What other reason is there for not taking such credit besides being beaten back? The trio looked at each other, with Bailey Yuyun saying, this is even worse. Devil Mountain isn't weak, but beyond strong, someone we can never offend. Yet we just did. We need to silence him. The lanky man slanted his head and spoke with sharp eyes. None can be left alive, not even the kids. Alas, the guy's power is still unclear. Will we be able to? Bailey Yuyun squinted, showing a crafty look. The kid may be tough to crack, but the others are dead weight. Seeing how he's with them, there must be someone among them he cares enough to affect his calm. I'll keep him busy, testing him and drawing to the side while you kill the rest. The instant he's distracted, we'll strike him hard together. This will tell us who among them he cares the most. The faster we find his weakness, the easier it'll be to finish him. Well, brilliant, Brother Yun. The two gave him a thumbs up. The trio then turned to their victims, no longer hesitating and ready for action. Zhuo Fan's heart sank. They sure are sword kings to come up with a plan so soon. This is the end of the ruse then. Having come up with a plan, there's no need for hesitation. Whoosh. The trio shot like hawks upon the kids. Bailey Yuyun went for Zhuofan while the other two split up and went around to target the wounded group. Even if by some miracle Zhuofan was a sword king, he'd still be stuck. He had no way of protecting himself and everyone else. The crux was, he wasn't, and he couldn't even defend against a sword king under the bubbling pressure slamming into them. The others shivered and paled. Zhuofan frowned, touching the flickering ring with a sigh. With no time left, I have no choice but to step in. Tilde. Ripples spread from his ring as immense power surges flashed. Zhuofan raised his hand, his eyes cold, since they came to die. Whoosh tilde. But then the sudden sword energies shot and forced the sword kings to slant out of the way. The sword energies cut a hole in their clothes, close to harming them. Who did that? The trio glared and turned back. A familiar voice echoed in everyone's ears. Ha ha ha, sword kings are great men having been in this world for thousands of years. Yet they like picking on little kids. Dad. Elder brother. Ouyang Changqing and Murong Shui shouted in joy. The saviors were none other than three people, all wielding divine swords, Murong Lai, Ouyang Lingtian and Shangguan Feixiong, though they were looking a bit pale there, even with their imposing presence. One could also not mistake the blood at their mouths, a sign of a heavy wound. Regardless, they chose to force themselves through the pain and face the three sword kings without remorse. Zhuofan raised his hand only to put it down with a sigh. Now that there's someone here to stop them, there's no need to waste energy. Hey, brother Zhuo, you're so amazing to know help will come. With Dad and them, the sword kings can't do anything to us. Ha ha ha, Ouyang Changqing was ecstatic. Oh, what do we do now? Look for a safe place to watch them fight or cheer them on? Brother Zhuo, with your cunning mind, what do you think it's best? Zhuofan glanced at him. The help I mention isn't them, though they're not a bad choice since they're here. So we should just run. Zhuofan shouted the last word and signaled the others to scramble after him for the teleportation array, leaving them in a daze. Reacting after a long time, they asked, Brother Zhuo, why would we run? We were dangerously close to having my trick found out. Now that someone actually lent a helping hand, only a fool would just stay to watch and die. Zhuofan urged the rest to run like hell while he barked at the pompous Ouyang Changqing. Ouyang Changqing was bemused. Aren't they here already? Why? Bang tilde. Three booms drowned his voice as three figures slammed the ground in front of them, splattering the earth with their blood. They were none other than the three divine sword wielders, their helpers. The swords in their hands hummed, as if mournful at the humiliation. Ouyang Changqing gaped at seeing his father down. How could his father with the divine sword even fall in one blow? Chapter 1075. You're wrong. Chapter 1075. You're wrong. Proofreader. Papatonks. The certain shade of red blood could gave a certain luster when splattered. It contrasted with Ouyang Lingtian and the other two's pale faces, their feeble appearances and hopeless looks. Ouyang Changqing and Murong Shui were gasping in disbelief. They had never seen their kin damaged to such an extent. How can this be? There were only three sword kings, almost on par with them. Not to mention they had the divine sword's help, all three of them. So why then did they fail instead of win? What happened? Zhuofan was the only one sharp enough to figure it out, sighing, I hoped they'd last some more, but those heavy wounds didn't help. Wounds? Murong Shui snapped her eyes at him. Brother and them were hurt before? Zhuofan gave a flat nod. Their first attacks to stop the sword kings might have looked great, but were shallow. They must have used their last drop to scare them. Pretty much like I've done it. Though. What? All asked at once. Zhuofan smirked. They don't have my acting skills. They tried to look calm, but the sweaty brows gave away the fact that they were running out of steam. Even the strongest of their land and wielding a divine sword, their energy was bone dry. I hoped they'd stall for a while longer, but they couldn't even last a hit. They must have suffered so badly before that they can't even fight to death now. The others shook at the explanation. The three mighty experts, with divine swords too, were their hope at survival, only to be smashed into the ground before them. They were damaged to begin with, unable to even help themselves. Thus it only worked to scare the enemy off and failed miserably. When their bluff failed, what were they going to do then against the sword kings? Die! They all paled, looking at each other with dead eyes. Ouyang Changqing and Murong Shui rushed to their kin to help them up. Shangguan Feixiong was the only one alone. With no one lending a hand, is no one going to help this old man? Did I not just come to save you kids? Shangguan Feixiong complained, looking at his other peers being helped and his mood soured. A large hand just then held him by the shoulder. Turning, he saw a familiar smile. Ha ha ha, Shangguan clan head, I told you, soaring swords unsealing was never going to be good for you. Wielding it, you had to fight that invincible monster, and unable to defeat him, this is how you end up. While not using soaring sword, you'd be out as a front-line commander. Now do you know the meaning of a blessing in disguise? Shangguan Feixiong shuddered and gave Zhuofan a bitter smile. Zhuo's foresight is flawless. I knew that with my strength that I wouldn't be a match to that old freak even with the soaring sword. But this is what a man does. I would gladly lay down my life if it means the Four Lands will thrive. TCH, if the old geezer was that easy to snuff out, you'd never be so afraid of him. Zhuofan taunted. Shangguan Feixiong nodded and sighed. I was only wishing for it. It would have been my life's glory if it worked. Shangguan Feixiong turned a deep gaze on Zhuofan. Sir Zhuo, from central area to northern lands, every time I struck misfortune, it's always you that lends a hand. I am touched by your friendship. As long as the Shangguan clan survives this war, my clan will never deny any of your requests in time of need, as gratitude for fighting shoulder to shoulder. Better save that for when the Shangguan clan actually sees tomorrow. Though you better be sure that I remember this favor. Don't regret it later, hey. I won't, even if you want my daughter's hand, I'll accept without remorse. Now hold it there. I'm a married man, I don't need you to sell her to me. And a true man has a couple or four by his side. Yanga might be against it, but will be sure to accept it if it's you. Now I'm badly hurt and only you came to my aid, already looking like a son-in-law. I told you to hold it, are you deaf? Wu Qingqiu, you take the old man. Seeing Shangguan Feixiong still trying to stick to him through his daughter, Zhuofan tried to stop him only to finally push him on Wu Qingqiu. Wu Qingqiu was a man of virtue and accepted it gladly. Murong Shui and Ouyang Changqing glanced at each other, looking at their own kin in shock. They're hurt because they fought the invincible sword. Ouyang Lingtian coughed and sighed with a lowered head, still not accepting the outcome himself. Is the invincible sword strong enough to hurt all three of you divine sword wielders? Murong Shui gasped in disbelief. The plan was to use the three divine swords against Bailey Yutian in the first place, to stall him while their reinforcements came, and then drown him in numbers. It clearly didn't work. Bailey Yutian's mere slash had them crushed, all three of them unable to stall Bailey Yutian. Their plan went up in smoke. If not for Zhuofan's plan to fight to the death, their own plan would have fallen through on the spot by now. While now they had a sliver of hope in victory. They believed that with Zhuofan's plan, with 2 lands worth of soldiers, they could turn it around. The invincible sword hurt us badly. We used the divine swords to shield ourselves but still only barely escaped with our lives. Ouyang Lingtian's brow shook and sighed. Bailey Yutian is beyond human in strength. Not even together could we touch him. Murong Lai closed his eyes, morose, shaking his head in despair. Ha ha ha, now you know the patriarch's power, but it's too late. Everyone shuddered, looking up at one of the 3 sword kings surrounding them. Bailey Yuyun, your appearance made us realize that you're ready to drop, and that you all have no strength to go on. We've been around Patriarch for so long, and yet we've never seen anyone surviving his strike. You only managed to because of those divine swords, otherwise you'd be corpses by now. And damaged as you are now, you still want to fight us? Humph, fools. Ouyang Lingtian gasped and his face twisted in fury. He flicked his hand and the sword in it, pointing at the trio. Changqing, escort Sir Zhuo and the others out of here. Get to the teleportation array and you'll all be safe. Murong Lai stood up by himself next to Ouyang Lingtian, looking pale but still willing to fight. Shangguan Feixiong coughed as he forced himself to stand. I may be feeble, but I have no regret giving my decrepit body if it means protecting the kids, the future of the Four Lands. Ha ha ha. Father, Ouyang Changqing cried out. Ouyang Lingtian cut him off, his voice stern. Changqing, I know you're worried about me, but don't worry. Your safety will be the one thing to put me at ease. Now go. Father. Stop. You should get there with your speed in a minute. I can still hold them back for at least this much. Father. Go. Ouyang Lingtian held his divine sword, roaring and ready to die. Ouyang Changqing scratched his head, hanging his head. Father, you're wrong there. That's not what I meant. We're hurt just like you and can't fly fast, needing 15 minutes to reach the teleportation array. Would you be able to hold a little longer? Ooh. The three of them shuddered and froze. Damn prodigal son. Chapter 1076. The Tigress is here. Chapter 1076. The Tigress is here. Proofreader. Papatonks. Face twitching hard, Ouyang Lingtian jerked his head to the smiling Ouyang Changqing. What was that? Ha ha ha, father, easy now. You can't blame us since they were stronger than us and all ended up hurt. Brother Zhua gave us a pill just recently and only then could we move again. That's the only reason you see us standing before you and not on the ground. Scratching his head, Ouyang Changqing explained bashfully. Ouyang Lingtian stared long at him, then turned to the three sword kings. Was it them who hurt you? Humph, a great sword king could erase you in one strike. What would be the point of torturing kids? Wrong, Ouyang Lingtian, we have our dignity and yet to wallow in some sick hobbies. We'd never do that to some kids. Bailey Yuyun mocked them, pointing at them. If you really want to know, just ask them. Ouyang Lingtian turned an inquisitive look at his son. Ouyang Changqing mumbled a bit and looked shyly. Father, we've met with the Bailey princes and ended up. Ended up how? All three of the divine sword wielders asked at the same time. The kids were all looking down and ashamed, crushed. You wrecked the 10 princes by yourselves. They cried out at once. The Four Lands heroes have truly capable successors. Ouyang Changqing sighed as their elders jumped the gun. Dad, what are you saying? It's them who wrecked us. The trio gasped, their hearts sinking into despair. The princes were all so tough, especially Bailey Jingtian. Brother Yi Lin and I had to work together, yet we still couldn't make him take us seriously. He wiped the floor with us easily. The others were also felled by the 9 princes too, in one strike while we couldn't even touch them. Dad, just how did those Bailey freaks train? It's like they were leagues above us from the Four Land. Ouyang Changqing asked his seniors, but they froze up like statues, with Ouyang Lingtian droning on, the royalty of the Sword Star Empire is unstoppable. Bailey Yutian crushed us in one strike, even our strongest juniors were unable to match the princes. Father and son ended up as punching bags, the Four Lands' strongest wiped, regardless of age. We may go above and beyond with our sacrifices to win this war, but then what? What about our children? The invincible sword might die, but a new invincible sword will appear in the central area. Ouyang Lingtian sank in despair, unable to see a way out of this horrible nightmare. The other two sighed. Sword Star Empire is strong in every generation, destroying Four Lands' every last hope. What then is the point of even fighting? Even if we somehow get to stop this generation's invincible sword, what will our kids do when the next one appears? The three sighed again. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Lingtian, Murong Lai, ignorant fools, you've got yourself cooped up in seclusion to fight Patriarch to the point you turned blind to the ever-changing world outside. Bailey Yuyun laughed with immense pride, his patronizing cutting deep. Our empire has potential and strength beyond what your lands can offer. Not only Patriarch and the 5 Sword Kings can crush you, but even our juniors can wipe the floor with your top disciples, for we are the strongest clan in the world. We are above you in every single way. Your obsession to resist will only delay your end and prolong your pain. Ouyang Lingtian, how your son ended is proof of that. You can fight our empire for a decade, century, thousands of years, yet still have not the slightest chance at winning. The trio shook, their faces sinking harder and the divine swords slipping out of their grip. The confidence of these true experts was destroyed. The Sword Kings jeered harder. Bullshit. Ouyang Changqing had never seen his father so down, snapping in anger. He stomped over to Zhua Fan, baffling him, and shouting at the Sword Kings above, "What strongest clan? That's nothing but utter horse crap." I had yet to finish talking. We have indeed lost at the hand of your princes, but all your 10 princes were just as easily destroyed by Brother Zhua here as well. The Sword Kings flinched, turning to Zhua Fan and looking grave. Ouyang Lingtian watched curiously. Now Ouyang Changqing held his head high, like he did it. Brother Zhua, Big Brother Zhua, is a genius to shake the gods and shock the world. What could your princes possibly do? Big Brother Zhua wiped out 9 of them in a flash. You got that? They didn't even have time to fight back. Even Bailey Jingtian, the last one, lost his arm and fled like a coward, and only with the help of 2 sword kings. Humph. Ouyang Changqing went one. We ended up defeated by your 10 princes, yet that's enough to declare the central area above us? Then, since Big Brother Zhuo destroyed your princes in a flash, leaving one crippled, still make you superior? Calling yourself the best clan in the world, then who do you take Zhuofan for? Humph. Well, let me tell you, get off your high horse, for one day the Zhuo clan will take over. Big Brother Zhuo is the second invincible sword. No, that guy's nothing. Big Brother Zhuo will be even stronger. Ouyang Changqing flared his nostrils at the sword kings, barking on and on like the greatest man there ever was, cocky and obnoxious. He spoke of everything like it was some grand achievement. Zhuofan chuckled. Brother Ouyang, since you're so keen on placing hatred on someone, take it yourself and not drag me into this. I have no intention to compete with Bailey clan. Brother Zhuo, I would have taken it all if I could fight, just look what that got me. Ouyang Changqing turned his sparkling eyes to him. You saw it yourself, how cocky those wretched fools are. Their words almost crushed Dad on the inside. I could not just watch and had to support my father and the other land's heroes, to show them the light. And I only spoke the truth. With Brother Zhuo's power, it's only a matter of time before you replace the arrogant Bailey clan in lording over the world. I have faith in you. I call you Big Brother now, coming into your clan, so now you have to take a stand. Do this and I shall follow your every word to the letter. What do you say? Zhuofan eyed him long and hard. The war took place in northern lands, where both sides focused their forces. While his faction would use the other 4 empty lands to develop, now that he had the chance. But once everything settled, northern lands would be hard to influence. So with Ouyang Changqing as the big boss around these parts would be a nice back door to spread his grip. Zhuofan gave a reluctant nod. Might as well set myself a foothold here. Ouyang Changqing grinned, finally able to be as cocky as he wanted on another's reputation. All of this wasn't on impulse either, birthed from the incredible worship he had in Zhuofan ever since he witnessed Zhuofan crushing the 10 princes like nothing. He knew then and there why Yi Lin held Zhuofan in such high regard, be it in wisdom or boldness. Zhuofan had it all to fight even those old fogies. His action was more like an investment. He accepted Zhuofan as one to shake the world with his actions, and Ouyang Changqing definitely wanted to be right there to relish in it. He might be pompous, but his goals were lofty since young, to be the best of the best. Though by the looks of it, with so many freaks around, it proved difficult. So he chose to stick to the freakiest around, to lord over the rest of the masses. Now that's a great bet. Ouyang Lingtian turned to Zhuofan, gasping but also feeling hope stirring in his crushed heart. The Bailey clan was not almighty. Someone would come to dethrone them, and that someone is Zhuofan. The sword kings above did not deny Ouyang Changqing's ravings, slowly nodding their heads. Yes, well said, boy. If the central area is a cut above the other lands, then Devil Mountain Disciple's power is beyond the profane world, shaking even us. That's why we won't let him grow. Kill him. Bailey Yuyun shouted, and the trio shot for Zhuofan. Ouyang Lingtian and the others too used their last strength to roar and stop them. Sir Zhuo, run. We'll stop them. Humph, damaged as you are? The sword kings mocked. A flash of thunder followed by rumbling came out of nowhere. Who dares touch father shall die. Zhuofan smirked. You're late, Chower. Chapter 1077. Here's your strongest clan. Chapter 1077. Here's your strongest clan. Proofreader. Papatonks. Boom. Purple lightning flashed at the horizon, unleashing 3 attacks on the sword kings. Before they reached Zhuofan, they had to flick their hands to stop the lightning strikes from hitting them, and they frowned as the attack forced them back. Who is it that can unleash the same type of lightning as the Sundering Sword? Whoosh tilde. Chower flashed in front of Zhuofan, giggling. Father, I'm just in time. No, you're late. Zhuofan grinned and shrugged teasingly. Any later and you'd have to scrape your poor old man from the ground. Chower gave a sly grin. No, I wouldn't. Dad has so many aces, those 3 wouldn't be able to touch you. Who can say? Maybe I'm so stingy I'll never use any. We still need to reach North Sea as well and should be use in case of certain doom only. Ha ha ha. Zhuofan shook his head, at which Chower smiled and wrinkled her cute nose. Dad, that's petty. While they were having a moment there between father and daughter, The rest were just shell-shocked. Ouyang Changqing jerked awake. Hey, big brother Zhuo, why your miss? What? That miss of yours that interfered. Ouyang Changqing gesticulated as he found it hard to speak the right words, stammering, Jay, just how old is she? The rest gasped at the young miss in disbelief. She looked around 6, but she just struck thrice with the power of around peak soul harmony stage. A junior with that power would be a mighty talent indeed. But then what would that make her? Still a twerp yet wielding so much power. Just what is wrong with this world? Ouyang Lingtian's team was just as stunned as the rest of them thinking about it. They had seen Zhuo Fan with his daughter, but was written off as extra in their minds, of no import. Only now they saw her as a real threat were all those around Zhuo Fan freaks of nature. Shangguan Feixiong had it the worst. He could still remember the young boy Zhuo Fan had with him back in the central area, the same boy who punched Shangguan Feiyun so hard he spurted blood. Now he showed up with a girl. Is the Zhuo clan a den of monsters? Everyone gave Zhuo Fan astonishing looks. Zhuo Fan gave a light wave, though finding no need to answer Ouyang Changqing. Chiaoer, now I can rest easy with you here. I'll leave the Sword Kings to you. Make sure they don't follow and do be careful. Their nature is in opposition with yours, so don't meet their sundering sword art. Don't worry, Dad, I know. Hey. Chiaoer flicked her twin ponytails as she turned around to stare at her targets with insufferable smugness. Dad says you 3 can't pass me, unless you want to die. I feel heaven's generosity for life, so I'll make it easy for you. If you don't budge, then you get to live longer. Dong. The minds of all boomed like drums at the young Mrs. blustering, unable to wrap their heads around how a wee girl could be so arrogant. Then they realized, right, like father like daughter, insufferably arrogant both of them. While the next reaction was, is the girl crazy? She may be in the soul harmony stage at her incredibly young age, practically a miracle, but no matter how outrageous, she's no match for Sword Kings. It'd be a loss upon this world for such a gem to be nipped in the cradle. Looking at the cute girl standing tallish, with that mighty look on her face, had Ouyang Lingtian and the rest feel it was such a pity, giving blaming looks to Zhuo Fan. We can understand the child being rash, obnoxious and wild, since it's her nature, but you, as her father, are supposed to act your age and not send your own daughter to her death. Why the hell would you? Zhuo Fan flicked his hand, walking away. In 15 minutes you'll all be safe through the teleportation array as I escort you. I also want to see for myself that Qing Cheng has left. Big brother Zhuo, you're going to leave and leave my niece here all by herself. Ouyang Changqing was quite forward, first calling him big brother and now treating Chiaoer as his niece, all stuck to him like glue. Zhuo Fan eyed him then chuckled, the kid sure has no sense of shame, just like me. In the poor days of the Luo clan, he was anxious to get some backing for it, so he used the same tactic on Long Ju from Veiled Dragon Pavilion. While he might not have found anyone from the mortal domain worth his attention, back then he was too broke and too powerless not to become sworn brothers with his best options to speed up his development plan. It was his lack of propriety that got the same clan turned into the enormous faction that was today. Looking at Ouyang Changqing, Zhuo Fan was looking at himself and smiled. Brother Ouyang, weren't you calling my clan the strongest? Then just watch the Zhuo clan's might. I find it beneath me addressing some Sword Kings, leaving it to the kids, ha ha ha. Everyone gasped, their eyes big. Dude, that's quite a mouth you have. You can show off, yes, but that's going overboard. Sending a 6-year-old girl to deal with Sword Kings? Is your clan made up of gods now? Besides Zhuo Fan, taking his sweet time walking off, the others were rooted to their spots, all staring at the cute Chiaoer with skepticism. They were just too damn curious how the child could fight 3 Sword Kings in the soul harmony stage. They wanted to test her limits and Zhuo Fan's wild boasting. Ouyang Lingtian and the other 2 were gripping their divine swords, ready to strike as well. If Chiaoer couldn't handle it, they would protect her. It was too much of a shame to bear, having a 6-year-old dying to protect these old coots. Their pride was on the line here. The Sword Kings were just as tense, though never considering Chiaoer from the start. Having seen her to be in the soul harmony stage from the 3 lightning attacks, they no longer cared. They only had eyes for Zhuo Fan brother Yun. The plan was to take the kid's head to get some credit, but then these 3 geezer came to give us their swords. Taking them to Patriarch as well will give us an even bigger commendation. Maybe Patriarch will even let us have them once he finished learning their arts. Then we'll become the only ones among the 9 sword kings to wield divine swords. None will be our equals, heh. One sword king spoke to Bailey Yuyun, who nodded and shouted, "What are we waiting for? Kill them and take the swords." The sword kings laughed and went for Ouyang Lingtian and Zhuo Fan, full of excitement at the prospects of a glorious future. Qiao never even registered as their target. Ouyang Lingtian turned grave, flicking his sword and pointing it at the incoming sword kings. "Come on, you'll have to pry our sword from our cold, dead hands. Isn't that obvious? We came to do just that, ha ha ha." Bailey Yuyun cackled, focusing his sword energy, drifting and floating. He waved and lightning cracked, striking fear in all as the sword energy split into 3 and shot for them. The 3's brows shook, sweat building on their brows. They used their divine swords to block, gnashing their teeth and getting ready for impact. A bang resounded from the impact, but not with their swords. It was a streak of golden energy that shot for the 3 sword energies. Bailey Yuyun gasped, "What is that?" Boom. He had no time to make sense of it as the raging golden flames surged and punched a huge hole in the sky. The golden light and the 3 sword energies clashed in a terrible explosion, dyeing the skies golden with the searing flames. The shockwave spread everywhere for thousands of miles, burning anything to a crisp. Ouyang Lingtian and the other 2 had their divine swords to shield them, but the power was so great they coughed blood still. The blood never got to touch the ground, burned in the air before it reached it. Only Qiao smiled, her twin tails swaying with the heat waves, unaffected. Zhuo Fan never looked back, still, walking away with a smirk. "Here's your strongest clan, ha ha ha." Chapter 1078, Unstoppable Ambush. Chapter 1078, Unstoppable Ambush. Proofreader, Papatonks. Plop tilde. The scorching golden flames filled the skies. 3 men were suddenly flung to the side, broken and wrecked, with even their black hair singed as they all coughed up a lot of blood. Finally stabilizing their condition, the sword kings looked pale as death. Their early confidence and mocking smirks were wiped off their faces, looking panicky and in shock at the golden conflagration and at the sweet innocent girl behind it. Only this 6-year-old girl's smile looked like the devil's to them. No matter how impressed they were of her before, they still couldn't believe she would end up so outrageously powerful. One strike had them falling back in wounds. This is impossible. Eyes shook, hearts quaked. The golden inferno was reflected on their terrified faces, turning their legs into jelly and robbing them of all courage. They were pushed back, all 3 of them, and given injuries. A couple more of that and they'd be breathing their last, even sword kings as they were. That thing is a killing machine. Blast that Barley Yuyu for not doing her job right. Her report is leagues behind reality. If the Missy is so tough, what about the big guy? The trio's hearts sank, not wanting to go down that road. Ha ha ha, get a load of my power. Qiao wiggled her brows in pride and laughed as golden flames burned in front. Listen up and listen good. That was just a warning. Take one more step and you'll have me to answer to. The trio's hearts jumped in their chests, taking a step back in fright. The imperial family from the central area would have gone wide-eyed from shock. 3 great and strong sword kings ended up terrified and cowering before some kid. The reality was, the girl was just that damn dangerous that not even a sword king could mess with her. Ouyang Changqing's jaw hit the floor, becoming numb from shock. He had to see it to believe it. The kid is so deadly that she can destroy a sword king with every strike. Standing there frozen in shock, Ouyang Changqing took a long time to come back to reality. He whipped his head at Zhuo Fan and stammered, "Be big brother Zhuo. Are all in your clan like that? What the hell got you so monstrous?" "Not monstrous, but the strongest clan, no?" Zhuo Fan smirked. "Brother Ouyang, you said my clan is the strongest, and while I dislike showing off, sometimes you have to take a stand. Won't everyone treat your words like bragging otherwise? Ha ha ha, just leave this to Qiao. You should hurry instead and look after your father to leave this place. It's not safe at all here." With a wide smile, Zhuo Fan kept on walking, showing off his straight back. Ouyang Changqing was in awe as he muttered, "Damn, I made the right bet after all. The Zhuo clan is outrageous and now I'm set to get in, ha ha ha. My foresight is the best, forget my old man." Only now he recalled how the previous mighty blast sent the 3 seniors flying. The shock of Qiao's super ridiculous power had him blanked out till now, waking up at last to the fact that his father needed help. The three old men were slumped on the searing ground, blinking at the golden inferno and at Xiao. Even forgetting about their wounds, they were in the same state as the three sword kings. Besides shock, they were more in awe. There's actually something so ridiculously insane in this world as a 6-year-old girl capable of Dad, this is no time to gawk, not with your wounds. Big brother Zhuo wants us to leave, so let's go. Ouyang Changqing rushed over and pulled on Ouyang Lingtian's hand over his shoulder. The others heard his yell and finally reacted, going to the other two to help them out, yet the three old guys were still out of it, unable to process what had just transpired, eyes staring blankly at Xiao. Someone's always above you. For the first time ever, they felt this saying on their own skin. There was no such thing as the strongest in this world, and there might even be more out there better than you. Men need to know respect and not be arrogant. The trio were taken away as they sighed with lowered heads. They were the strongest in their lands, at the top of the world, with only the invincible sword standing above them. They were all civilized men, but being constantly affected by their status made them develop unhealthy pride in themselves while disregarding all others. They only saw the invincible sword as their real opponent. Xiao now showed them, slapped them hard awake. There were countless young heroes out there, beyond even what these old relics could achieve. Wu Qingqiu's team gave Xiao one last look before realizing that Zhuo Fan's daughter did have the power to block the Sword Kings. Even as baffled and stunned as they were, they could not misplace the safety they felt. Without hesitating any longer, they dragged the three seniors after Zhuo Fan. Yi Lin stepped livelier, catching up to him, whispering, "Elder brother, did Xiao use a dragon breath pill?" "Yeah. How many do you have?" "If she uses them all, then nothing will stop them." "Relax, dragon ancestor gave her 10. I bet 3 are enough to rip even those sword kings to pieces." Zhuo Fan smirked in confidence. Yi Lin flinched and gasped, "So many? Master is playing favorites. He only gave me a couple last time and now he just gives away 10? On top of that, they're even stronger. And he even said the dragon breath pill drains him a lot. Liar. This shows he cares more about the girl than me. I don't think so, since I provoked him into giving them, and our mission this time is too dangerous. Dragon ancestor just gave us a little something to be prepared for whatever comes our way." "Dangerous? Elder brother, weren't you in a rush to seal the world wind tunnels? Why have you come to the northern lands? Can I help?" "Most likely not." Zhuo Fan shook his head, turning serious. "To be honest, I came to the North Sea to find heaven sealing Cao. But then I heard he has a foul temper, treating humans like they're his bitter enemies, so I came prepared." "You can't get involved. The more we are before the sacred beast, the worse it would probably be. There's no point in wasting your life. I'll have to play it by ear and see if I can get him to cooperate." Recalling his master's strength, Yi Lin nodded in understanding, then sighed and gave up, and so, the team left their backs in Xiao's care as they moved with speed for the teleportation array. The Sword Kings looked through the golden firewall with anxiety and gnashed teeth. To get to them, they first had to get through Xiao and her cold smile. Though they were feeling a bit fearful, the girl is outrageous. But the problem is her dad. How strong is he? In the case he's even stronger than her, then we have it worse. Chasing did not sound so pleasant right now. Curse you, Bailey Yuyu, and your rotten report. We were all minding our business and would have kept it like this instead of offending this monster pair. Now that all gloves are off, we need to finish them now or suffer later. But how the hell are we to do that? They had deep frowns, and filled with blame for Barley Yuyu, cursing her to the high heavens. Whoosh tilde. A sudden gale blew and a tall figure loomed over them from behind. An aged and rumbling voice shook the air. "What happened? Why such a huge ruckus?" "Patriarch." Shuddering, the Sword Kings turned around at once and bowed. "Greetings, Patriarch." Chapter 1079, Hard to Block. Chapter 1079, Hard to Block. Proofreader, Papatonks. Whoosh. Invincible sword flashed before the three with coldness in his eyes. "What happened here?" "Report. Patriarch, we were stopping Zhuo Fan and Ouyang Lingtian's group of 3 divine swords wielders." The trio tensed and answered at once. Bailey Yutian's beard shook, but then grinned. "That's great then, the heads and the swords I wanted gathered in one place." "Well, where are they?" Ran off. The trio's faces twitched, feeling apprehensive as they glanced at Bailey Yutian shaking all over his features twisted as he roared, "Ran off? How the hell did they just run off? Because. And why are you still standing here like fools and not going after them?" Bailey Yutian cut through their stammering as he raged on. The trio looked at each other with bitter gazes. When Bailey Yuyun finally scrounged up his courage to point at Chaoa, "Patriarch, we failed you, stopped by this little girl. We couldn't do anything. Please show leniency, Patriarch." "A little girl?" Bailey Yutian narrowed his eyes, scanning Chaoa. "So this is the one you say that blocked you?" "Yes, Patriarch, she's always been with that Shuafan. Her innocent, cute and joyful manner is just a front for the real." Bam! Bailey Yuyun and the other two found themselves flung away by a sudden release of immense power, even as he talked. They bled once more, coughing and paling. Bailey Yutian's eyes burned hot with his anger. "I don't need excuses. You're nothing but dead waste for even a little girl to stop you." "Yes." The trio took the critique with a deep bow. Bailey Yutian turned his attention to Chaoa, showing off a cold smile. "Ha ha ha, Devil Mountain isn't the empty lie I thought it to be. There's some truth to it, I see. Missy, you sure are something to stop these three, even if they're more or less garbage." "Better believe it, humph." Chaoa scoffed and raised her cute face with excessive pride. "Those three don't know reason, so I only set them straight. Old coot, if you know what's good for you, disappear from my sight. Dad said none of you can cross this line." "Or what?" Bailey Yutian smiled. Chaoa smirked, her eyes flashing coldly. "What I'm going to do to old geezer like you is cremate you. You got quite the mouth on you." Bailey Yutian shook his head, giving a scornful look and smile. He just walked towards the golden fire, one step at a time, like he was out on a stroll. "Missy, you're the first to ever talk to me like that since I started on my path. Show me then, just what skills you have to back up that overconfidence, ha ha ha." Bailey Yutian laughed, letting it loose as his bulk neared Chaoa. Chaoa stared at him, her face growing hard, then her hand flashed with a golden ball of fire. The violent and destructive air it gave spoke of death and horrors. "Old coot, you asked for it. You only got yourself to blame for ending up in pieces by insisting on crossing the line. There's no line that can't be crossed, only the strength to do so." Glancing at the ball in Chaoa's hand and sensing its power, Bailey Yutian was first amazed then excited as he quickened his pace. He couldn't wait to test Chaoa's strength, so that's what got those three fools to eat dirt. "Ha ha ha, not bad at all. I can feel the flood of power coming off it. Though it's not yours, miss, but to have it proves Devil Mountain is more than it seems. I so wish I could meet a real Devil Mountain expert. It would make death worth it." "Oh, you're going to see one all right now." Chaoa's eyes flashed and the dragon breath pill whistled through the air for Bailey Yutian. Boom. The golden light shot like a start, smashing for Bailey Yutian at top speed. It followed with a tremendous explosion, not unlike the previous one, shaking the world around for thousands of miles. The Golden Inferno released decimating shockwaves that engulfed half of the Sea Bright sect and destroyed veritable monuments, having survived for thousands of years. As for the mighty invincible sword himself, it got swallowed up by the raging flames. The Sword Kings gasped in panic. "Patriarch." There was no answer, giving the sinking feeling. The old expert's body crumbled under the onslaught of fire. The Sword Kings slumped in shock. Chaoa giggled and mocked. "That's what you get for pushing it." And he still went on about seeing some Devil Mountain true expert. "Happy now? I am none other than such an expert of Devil Mountain. So rest in pieces, hey. Ha ha ha, every true expert out there can use their own power to twist the world to their whim." An aged voice of disdain echoed from the flames. "Miss, you've got a good talent, the makings of a great expert. It's a shame though, that you're quite far from being one, with your childish use of another's power. Allow me to show you what a true expert can do." Rumble tilde. Lightning crackled all of a sudden and a savage sword wave crossed the skies and split the inferno. Invincible sword appeared in sight, taking his time as he walked out, casual as before with every step. Rumbling echoed out. The golden flames crumbled with a sudden bang as purple lightning thundered high above, tearing into the golden fires until nothing remained. The inferno soon turned into a purple thunderstorm. Bailey Yutian thus became the overlord of this storm. With him here, the golden flames would never burn again. "Patriarch, The Sword Kings cheered. Chowa shook, looking at the old man in disbelief. No way. Dragon ancestors. Dragon breath pill did nothing? What is he? Dragon breath pill, ha ha ha. Was that what you threw? Bailey Yutian's eyes shone with bloodthirst, his steps measured as he got closer to Chowa. This toy is good enough to deal with a Sword King. It even made me twitch. Ha ha ha, how many years has it been since someone managed to make me feel numb? I'm really curious now as to who made this dragon breath pill. Though no matter how great, it's still a crutch, while true experts wield endless strength from within. That's what I want to fight, not some child throwing toys at me. So I will ask you again, Missy, does Devil Mountain have any experts? Ha ha ha. Chowa's brow shook, staring hard at Invincible Sword's stature growing bigger as he neared. She flinched back in reflex, her hand holding another dragon breath pill. Bailey Yutian noticed and shook his head. Miss, so you chose to ignore me. I told you, I have no interest in such toys. Whoosh tilde. Chowa threw the second dragon breath pill and cut him off. Then have another taste, geezer. Chapter 1080, Limit. Chapter 1080, Limit. Proofreader, Papatonks. Boom. Another glorious explosion shook the skies, with the raging fires leaping high above. From Chowa's second dragon breath pill she threw at Bailey Yutian, the result was the same as the first time, unfortunately. Following the flashes of lightning, the fire soon got pulverized into nothing. Only the lightning remained, flashing across the skies, a hymn to the coming of an overlord. Bailey Yutian had no hair out of place, taking his time to walk ever nearer to the sweet girl with a smirk on his face. Miss, what you got may stop others, but never myself. Can you see why? Ha ha ha, because I am just that much stronger. Every law, limit, rule in this world is nothing to the truly strong, one such as I. Chowa shivered, looking shocked and stumbling back. She had lost her confidence and was now sinking into terror. His strength is inhuman, like a sacred beast. But more of a fledgling, having yet to mature. Regardless, Chowa still found it dismal how such an aberration walked this earth. Besides her dear dad, of course at least Fan got a sovereign's legacy, while he. Chowa's eyes widened, staring hard at the incoming firm steps with a lost look. Or maybe this old coot grasps the sword sovereign's essence. It all makes sense now, why Invincible Sword is so ridiculously strong compared to the other Sword Kings. He has come to touch upon the core of Sword Sovereign's swordsmanship, having gleaned into its fundamentals. Not even Fan could top that. He was more quantity than quality, taking every legacy he got for a trial run and not delving deeper into their core values. As for Invincible Sword, he only had Sundering Sword swordsmanship, and even that was just a fraction from the Sundering Sword. This, however, proved enough to take him to the pinnacle of power in this domain. Fan and Invincible Sword both learned sovereign paths. But as to who would come on top, be it the broad approach or the focused approach, remained to be seen, though facts already tipped the balance in Fan's favor. He had widened his gaze while Invincible Sword focused it instead, making it one of the main reasons for going after the other divine swords. He learned all the Sundering Sword art had to give him, and to go further, he needed the other arts to rise above this stagnation. Chowa had lost her precious calm, her palms feeling clammy. She knew then that she wasn't facing some average cultivator, but a future Fan. As for Fan's capacity for growth, she based it off of Dragon Ancestor describing Fan's limitless future. A sovereign inheritance was a huge deal. Even with a shoddy perception, you'd still rise above the masses. This went double for Invincible Sword and Fan, cultivation geniuses the world had never seen. Add to that a sovereign's inheritance and they would become something the sacred beasts would come to pay attention to. Chowa had the minor dragon breath pills Dragon Ancestor gave to her for protection, but they proved to be nothing but parlor tricks before the one grasping Sundering Sword's complete Sundering Sword art. I'm going to end you. Chowa shook hard, staring at the man coming ever closer, and 5 dragon breath pills showed in her hand before throwing them all at him. Boom. The first unleashed sky-high flames upon contact with Invincible Sword. Before the golden inferno suffered the same fate the last 2 times, the second dragon breath pill came, unleashing another huge explosion. The second wave of flames overlapped the first, swallowing Bailey Yutian completely. Then came the last 3. Throwing inferno after inferno at Bailey Yutian, the purple lightning flashed non-stop, to scatter the flames, but 5 raging fires were too much indeed. Even under the constant lightning strikes from the heavens, the fire never died out. The 3 sword kings grew grave once more with worry. Despite it all, Bailey Yutian's footsteps never wavered, still walking on, yet a slight frown was still noticeable. A sudden cry came from him, unleashing all his power. As the 5 searing waves of fire were about to enclose him, booms resounded as lightning gushed from within, tearing at the fires. The dreadful lightning flashed and punched a hole in the inferno, helping the lightning coming from above to attack it from the outside until no golden flames remained. The Sword Kings gasped, unwilling to believe what they were seeing. Patriarch's power exceeds that of the worlds. Bailey Yuyun glanced at the other 2, his voice shaky. Any other Genesis stage expert relies on the world's power for their strength. Even we, Sword Kings, are no different. Yet Patriarch. Yeah. Another Sword King nodded. Some say the world's power has a limit. If one comes to overcome it, they would be able to tear the world apart. I always thought it to be a myth. How can the world have a limit? Now I know that Patriarch had already attained this realm. It's inconceivable. We all saw how the world's power barely put a dent in the thick flames, yet the Patriarch's own strength cleaved them. What more proof is there? The other 2 nodded, their eyes shining with excitement. It was pride in their clan that the invincible sword was indeed the strongest in the 5 lands. Not even the world could stop him. They had no way of knowing that the world's power had no limit. It was this domain's scope that had a limit that not even Sword Kings could touch upon. But Bailey Yutian did. It was solid proof he had outgrown the mortal domain and could no longer be classified as such. The mortal domain was a mere dimension, a ray, that heavenly sovereign formed, thus having its limits. But like Bailey Yutian said, enough strength could crush those limits. He came before it, but only probing about, unable to understand its intricacies. He was still in the dark that he was among the very few in the mortal domain qualified to enter the sacred domain. Who tilde? A biting wind swept the area, with a black dust blowing everywhere. Bailey Yutian stood in the air and smiled victoriously. Miss, 5 dragon breath pills can overlap, but it's unfortunate they couldn't combine into a single strike, coming utterly short of a true expert's might. The middle part, that of connecting them, is the biggest flaw. So no matter how many you throw at me, they can't. Bailey Yutian declared smugly, like instructing a child, but then found his audience wasn't there to humor his flair of the dramatic. The twerp is sly. Patriarch, she threw the 5 dragon breath pills not to beat you, but to run away. Bailey Yuyun popped over and exclaimed "Pa." The resounding slap sent him reeling, with Bailey Yutian barking, "You think I don't know that? Humph, don't just stand there, go and find her. I wanted Zhuofan and the 3 divine swords, but now I also want her. She thinks she can toy with me. Humph, I'll show her the real meaning of strength." Yes. They all bowed at once, following his orders. Meanwhile, Zhuofan's gang were speeding away when they heard a loud commotion behind that drew their attention. They gasped at the sight of the golden inferno. How is that we lass so strong, and at such a young age? The flames barely held for a few seconds before purple lightning snuffed them out. Ouyang Lingtian cried out, "I invincible sword, that's his might when using the world's power." He caught up. Will the young girl be able to stop him? Hey Dad, don't worry, our Zhuo clan's the strongest there is. A child can handle 3 lousy sword kings, so there's no way invincible sword stands a chance either against our clan's young miss. Ouyang Changqing gave a dismissive wave. Ouyang Lingtian's face twitched. Boy, you sure switch camps fast, not waiting for me to die before relinquishing your history and ancestors. What are you saying, Dad? I'm still Ouyang and not turning my back on my ancestors. It's merely showing respect to my big brother. My big brother Zhuo and I will do great things together. Ain't that glorious? Ouyang Lingtian rolled his eyes, turning serious as he glanced at Zhuofan. Since he was of the Sea Bright sect, his son would become the sect's successor. Though with Zhuofan being so outstanding, a real go-getter, he showed incredible potential and promise. For his son to follow him might not be such a bad idea after all. By all accounts, this was a breach of sect's rules, though Ouyang Lingtian turned a blind eye. Anyone would strive to grow, and only a fool would be blind to Zhuofan's prospects to not follow. Although, Murong Shui always seemed to be against him, humph, spineless coward, falling in with devils. Boom! A huge explosion came from behind just then, with a golden glow reaching high in the sky. Before it was soon covered in purple. Zhuo Fan shook, stopping for once. There's no point rushing it. Xiao can't hold them. Prepare to fight. Chapter 1081, Unfit. Chapter 1081, Unfit. Proofreader, Papatonks. What, fight? Seeing Zhuo Fan stop, the rest halted as well, looking grave. Brother Zhuo, are you absolutely sure Xiao can't hold it? Zhuo Fan gave a curt nod. In the last two explosions, the lightning always prevailed over the inferno. It's proof that Xiao can't handle invincible sword. I wager they'll soon catch up, and escaping with our speed is pointless. That's why, fight. Brows shook all over as faces sank in despair, balling their fists as fear creeped into their hearts. Besides the fact that all here were stragglers, not even at their best would they ever hope to stand a chance against that monster. Ouyang Lingtian was the most clear on that. He and the other two divine sword wielders' only hope was in Xiao's godlike talent. This, however, turned out to be a bust as well, with the old freak coming to finish them off. Everyone shivered. Big brother Zhuo, what are our chances? Ouyang Changqing gazed at him with blinding hope. Everyone turned as well with burning gazes, including the three oldies here, all eager to know the answer to that question. Having lost their backbone and awaited his instructions back when he was the Grand Marshal, they could still make use of that noggin on their shoulders, considering the three orders. Now though, they relinquished their cognition in favor of following Zhuo Fan's orders. They were at the end of the rope and the only way out was with help. Any that fell in such dire straits would stoop to any low, would take any deal. They would forego using their own minds in overcoming to earn another's help. The help might come from a volatile person, but no matter how wretched the character or unreliable, his words were law to them. Not to mention Zhuo Fan's intellect had been put to the test and prevailed. Their trust in him was blinding at this point. None had such complete faith in Zhuo Fan until now, especially the ever-belligerent Murong Shui. Even she found herself with her fate in his hands. Despair was among the best ways to get people to listen and obey. How else would you explain the many plebeian revolts throughout history? Zhuo Fan met their gaze with a knowing smile. Rest easy, with me here, nothing will happen. Big brother knows a way. You can overcome invincible sword. Ouyang Changqing gasped, discovering another side of him. The boss is so tough he only used his pinky before, when he has the power to fight the best in the lands. Ah really? But we're peers, there's a limit to how strong you can get. His suspicion soon waned right after, recalling Xiao pushing back three sword kings, and she was even younger. As her father, there's nothing big brother Zhuo can't do. The Zhuo clan is a hidden den of monsters. Ouyang Changqing cupped his hands in admiration. Big brother Zhuo is unfathomable, having not shown your talent for us to see. Now I get to see Big Brother's style, and I bet Big Brother and Invincible Sword's fight shall be the greatest and most glorious battle since the world came to be. It shall be our utmost honor to witness history being made. The rest looked at Zhuo Fan with astonishment. He can handle Invincible Sword, really? That's insane. Invincible Sword had trained for ages, but what about him? If he could meet the old monster head-on, these observers would be ashamed for the old coot. You cultivated for millennia yet can't even compare to a guy being around for just a few decades. What have you been doing all these years, lounging? Those from the western lands were even more incredulous, since the last time they saw him was barely 10 years ago, when they knew his strength. There was just no way one could jump ranks so much and so fast. Not just Invincible Sword would be depressed if he could, but even them, feeling like they wasted their years. We've been hard at work training, so why are we still so far behind? Everyone had tense looks, waiting for Zhuo Fan's answer. There was hope and denial on their faces. While it was a great boon for them if Zhuo Fan had such heft, the same couldn't be said for their pride and self-confidence. What the hell have you been doing these years? How did you get so far ahead? We're not even in your shadow anymore. Gulping, Ouyang Lingtian and the other two were stressed out as they waited with fixed gazes on him, their thoughts and wishes in deep conflict. If Zhuo Fan declared he could fight Invincible Sword, they were the first to be in utter denial, taking out their sash and just hanging themselves with it. If you're such an abomination, what does that make us? Looking at them all, knowing full well the chaos in their hearts, Zhuo Fan chuckled and shook his head. Friends, With my strength, even fighting peak Genesis experts is out of question, let alone invincible sword. I just happen to have some things on me, like Chower, from my master when times are tough. I can at least escape with my life. Oh, I see. They all bobbed their heads, their rearing jealousy and envy curbed on the spot. What did I tell you? There's no way humans could train so fast, that's simply insane. It turns out to be some special means instead. That explains the lass' outrageous power, it's all based on something else. One's cultivation can only grow through hard work after all. Ouyang Lingtian and the other two had this belief ingrained in their hearts, getting testy the minute someone challenged it. If Zhuofan and Xiaoer had truly amassed in a few years what took 1,000, their minds would snap and would just curl up and cry in a corner. They thanked the heavens it wasn't so. This at least brought value to their bitter struggle to the top for years on end. They got to keep their ego intact, for now Changqing, slow and steady wins the race, tested and proved throughout the ages. Remember that. To be strong you need to train hard and not rely on props. When they fail, and they will, you only have yourself to rely on. Understand? Ouyang Lingtian used this chance to teach his wisdom to the child, though doing more for himself and washing away this defeat. It included Zhuofan in it as well, though they all understood it. Old-timers found their limelight stolen by youth, so they could only hang their seniority over their heads to show off. Ouyang Changqing played along by nodding, the picture of an earnest pupil, yet rotten heart of disdain. Youths were pragmatic, looking only at the end and not the means. Sure, his old man's words held some truth in them, though here and now, they fell on deaf ears. To make it worse, if it came from Zhuofan for instance, he'd have his full attention. Whoosh. Purple flashed and Xiaoer caught up to them. She looked panicked, rushing to Zhuofan. Father, that old-timer is too strong. Dragon breath pill didn't do anything. He's on his way right now. Ha ha ha, yes, but not on his way, having already arrived. Just as she finished, 4 whistling sounds were heard as Invincible Sword was upon them with the 3 Sword Kings in tow. Everyone flinched back from shock, even Xiaoer. For the first time, she scampered behind Zhuofan, peeking at Bailey Yutian with fear. The monster is here. Zhuofan lacked the obvious fear and distress prevalent running rampant in his group, smiling as he cupped his hands. Sir, we meet again. Indeed, Sir Zhuo, your absence weighed heavy on my heart. Ha ha ha. Giving a smirk, Bailey Yutian laughed. Devil Mountain is such a big name, living up to its reputation. I have now come to see it for what it is. Although, I'm afraid leaving without your head and the 3 divine swords is out of the question. Will Sir oblige? Zhuofan cocked an eyebrow, giving off a smirk of his own. Sir Shaw is forgetful of our deal to stay out of each other's way. Isn't it a little too soon to come for my head? Sir might want to go back on his word, but aren't you too eager, too undignified? An agreement is made between equal parties, something I considered you to be then. Not anymore. He squinted and gave an evil smile. If you wish the deal to hold, you will have to prove to me you have what it takes for me to honor it still. You don't say. Ha ha ha, then I guess the deal is off, here and now. Giving up so soon, sir? Ha ha ha, with your bluff seen through, you're sensible. That's where you're wrong, sir. Zhuofan grinned as Bailey Yutian laughed, his eyes disdainful. I found that from how Sir defined the deal that you're the one unfit for me to keep it. You're just too weak. Bailey Yutian shuddered, his manic smile frozen on his face as his expression darkened. Humph, Sir Zhuo called me forgetful, when you're even more so. I take it back, you're not sensible, but conceited. It might scare everyone else, but not me. You're only signing your death warrant. Chapter 1082, Showdown. Chapter 1082, Showdown. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bailey Yutian flicked his fingers. The sky turned purple from the lightning and a savage sword energy flew straight for Zhuofan. The pressure they felt spiked from that one strike, stalling everyone's breath and making them shiver. It even made their skin crack, scarlet blood seeping from their wounds, like they were ready to pop. Ouyang Lingtian and the other 2 had bloody faces, unable to resist. Not even wielding divine swords proved enough to defend against this casual swipe from Bailey Yutian, invincible sword, unstoppable and decimating. He held the greatest power in the world, relentless and crushing. Below this sword wave, all felt death breathing down their necks, turning icier and icier. Ha ha ha, Sir Joueur, I just came from having tried your child's toy. Quite impressive, I might add, but far from enough to threaten me. Sir Joueur, a father shouldn't be using the same method like your daughter in desperate times. You'd only disappoint me. Bailey Yutian laughed with disdain. The three sword kings looked smug, seeing their boss smug, cackling on the inside. Mess with Patriarch and this is what you get. None can stand up to the Patriarch. Devil Mountain's dragon breath pill might deal with a sword king, but it's only a crude toy against Patriarch, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan squinted, facing the fierce winds, and looked at the obnoxious four above with a cold smile. Invincible sword, don't get too happy. You're far from becoming unbeatable. I might not have such toys on me, though I'm partial to having pets. Since Sir is gracious enough to show us how it's done, I would very much appreciate your input on this little beastie. Zhuo Fan flicked his hand and the storage ring opened a portal of fierce gale blue and the ground shook. The sword energy was right on top of the group, about to take their heads, when a huge sharp claw lashed out at it. The explosion rumbled out and the invincible sword's energy remnants faded off into nothing. A chilling wind passed as a wind shadowed the sun and the skies in its entirety. A single flap crushed stone and broke mountains. The endless purple lightning around got snuffed out as well under the biting gale. The invincible sword's dominance over the sky had been cut down to half its size as a three-headed humongous bird with an azure flame on its forehead presented its glorious size to the world. It shrieked, the piercing sound deafening and reverberating in all directions. All spiritual beasts within 1,000 miles cowered in fear, prostrating before their king Teethats. All gaped in shock and terror, including even Invincible Sword. Could this be the legendary imperial spiritual beast of the 9th level, the three-headed crow? The Sword Kings were dumbstruck, face twitching and shaking hard. Patriarch, that's indeed the strongest spiritual beast, the 9th grade imperial three-headed crow. Hardly anyone has seen it. To think it would make its appearance today. The Devil Mountain is a monster to even rear something of this caliber. Bailey Yuyun grew grave as he stared in disbelief. 9th level spiritual beasts are the strongest, said to be an emperor anywhere it went to all creatures. There has never been any man in the Five Lands history capable of surpassing such a legend. It was in fact human empires that caved under its claw and wingspan by the dozens. I just can't fathom how such an emperor of beasts would be willing to listen to some human. Patriarch, Devil Mountain. Bailey Yuyun shook in anxiety, his regret mounting. This expert could not be trifled with, having the might to subdue even the mightiest of beasts, a 9th level spiritual beast. The real issue here was that they got on this mystical hidden sect's bad side now. How are we supposed to survive it? When the real experts feel like coming for retribution, not even the Patriarch might hold. Bailey Yuyun grew panicked, looking at Bailey Yutian in fear. Bailey Yutian knew what he wanted to say and hold his hand out to stop him, his smirk obvious as he stared in excitement at the huge beast. For thousands of years I've been in constant search for a worthy opponent, yet was disappointed every time. Provoking Devil Mountain might not have been wise, but to see a living legend, a 9th level spiritual beast, is filling this old heart with glee, ha ha ha. Patriarch, that's not the problem here, it's the person who subdued it. I know that. Invincible Sword waved him off with impatience. Only a true expert can make a 9th level spiritual beast bow. We've really stirred the hornet's nest this time, and even I might feel its sting. But what of it? Do you three know how the Sword Star Empire came to be? In my prime, I've faced countless hardships and challenges that led to what you see today. Isn't it just another strong adversary that showed up? Just in time too, to curb this solitude I've endured for years and years. I can now feel young again. No matter how tough Devil Mountain is or how many experts come at me, I'll meet them head on down to my last breath. Just like how I did back in the day and challenged the Five Lands. Ha ha ha, Devil Mountain, this is great. It's so good that you exist. Now I'm no longer alone, ha ha ha. An uninhibited mad laughter came from Invincible Sword as he stared at the three-headed crow. Brimming with glee, the sundering sword appeared in his hand. As he felt the streaks of purple lightning flaring, his thirst for battle raged as his aura burst forth in a blink. The skies changed. Lightning crackled, purple fighting to wrest control of the skies from the black winds. The Sword Kings fell back as Patriarch grew more and more excited, having never seen him so wild and violent. Now that the 9th level spiritual beast appeared, it could handle all his power and he could finally let loose. For a man so crazed about being at the very top, it was the greatest stimulant. The three-headed crow started, hardly believing what he was seeing. Not even it had faced such a strong human. Surprised one even appeared in this mortal domain. Invincible sword was a man that even an imperial spiritual beast would respect. Ouyang Lingtian and the others watched the three-headed crow with gaping mouths. Sir Zhuo, the Devil Mountain even has something this outrageous? Well, they're good for errands and holding the door. Zhuo Fan spoke heavily, staring at the beast and man about to duke it out. Even he began to feel some respect. Wisdom came with age, it was what everyone was saying. And the more one went on in years, the more they gained and the more they feared losing any of it. Invincible sword was the exception. Age was just a number to him, while always going around challenging his limits with no fear of what it might do to his clan. No wonder he's the invincible sword, haha. He was at least leagues above all the other 4 so-called strongest in their lands. The 3 old-timers gawking from the sidelines earned Zhuo Fan's displeasure. He was on the foreland side, facing off against the invincible sword. Yet when it came to respect, he found the enemy far more worthy of it. It was all due to these mighty experts cowering in the face of their enemy, while the invincible sword relished the challenge. That's what separates the strong from the weak. Propping doors. Sir Zhuo, just what the hell is Devil Mountain even? Ouyang Lingtian cried in shock. Zhuo Fan smiled, his focus never leaving the fight that was to commence. He noticed the three-headed crow was shaking, looking just as thrilled. The 9th level spiritual beast wants to put the invincible sword's title to a real test, ha ha ha. How foolish. Zhuo Fan shook his head and continued to watch. He shouldn't be belittling the 3, not when they were heroes of their own areas. But now, when life was on the line, in the face of this showdown, they only cared about self-preservation, although quite a logical action too. While he had no worry since it was all going as planned, the rest were on a razor's edge, from one situation into another. How could they handle that? He always emphasized on their toughness and bravery, but he was asking too much from them. Zhuo Fan emptied his mind then, finding a new world view then and there. Opening his eyes, all were just too focused to notice his changed gaze, with even Zhuo Fan unable to understand what realization he came to. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.